Happy Hour Friday starts now. What's up, everybody? Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at my Gill Show. Follow, like, subscribe. What's going on? It's a Happy Hour Friday. We got a lot going on. It's the final day of the first week of NFL free agency. We'll get you locked in on that. Kind of a refresher and a recap of what the Eagles have done. A couple former Eagles are moving around. One is in the NFC East, signing with the Dallas Cowboys. I got the latest on that. You can get it right now at 973ESPN.com. I got this on my mind as well. Yesterday we did Rye or Sigh. I thought Ryan brought up an interesting question. I keep thinking about it, and I don't know how to answer the question. So I'll get your help if you weren't listening in the 5 o'clock hour last night. He asked an interesting question, and the question had to do with the Phillies. And the question he asked was, with this group of guys, this core group of Phillies, the Harper, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Schwarber, Marsh, Castellanos, Realmuto, Wheeler, Nola, they've been together now for what? 22, 23, 24. I know Turner was not there during the 22 World Series team. But everybody else is the same, right? They have had the same exact – you basically substituted Turner for Hoskins. That's the only change that this team has made going back to the World Series in 2022, right? Is there anybody else that is in the lineup today that was a part of that lineup that – changes the dynamics of this team? I don't remember. Like, there might have been a part-time player, maybe a platoon guy. But in 2022 in the World Series, their catcher was Realmuto. They had Hoskins at first. They had Segura was the only guy that's not here. Segura was at second. Stott was at short. Bohm was at third. Schwarber played left, Marsh played center, Castellanos played right. It's essentially 8 of the 9 guys are the same. Turner is here, Segura is not. You could say Kepler is here, and now Hoskins is not. But for the most part, since 2022 to where we are right now, he brought up an interesting question, and we didn't get a lot of time to dive into this because it was kind of at the end of the segment, and we're getting ready to call it a night. And I didn't want to think about it anymore. So when I woke up today, I said, that was a very interesting question. And the question is this era of Phillies baseball right now that we're in, the era of Phillies baseball that we're in right now currently, are their best days ahead of them or in the rear view? 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. In this era of Phillies baseball, with this group of guys, the core group of guys, is the best baseball ahead of them or in the rear view? 609-403-0973. What do you guys think out there? Because I'm not really sure how I answer this question. I'm not sure if this is, did we already see the best of them losing in the World Series in 2022? Is that the best of this Phillies team? Or do they have a better ending down the road? And I have a hard time saying I think they have better days ahead. Right? Do they really have better days ahead? I don't know about that. And I think if they, put it this way, if they have better days ahead, I think we're going to be, that's a surprise, is it not? How many more MVP elite years are you getting out of Bryce Harper? Are you getting better seasons ahead from Trey Turner, or have you already seen the best? Are you getting better seasons from JT Realmuto, or have you already got the best? Are you getting better seasons from Castellanos, or have you already got the best? Are you getting better seasons from Schwarber, or have you already got the best? Heck, are you getting better from Wheeler and Nola, or have you already got their best? The only two guys that you can say you might get better from is Bohm and Stott. And are we getting to the point with Bohm where is this the best he is? Stott, I think we're all holding out hope that he kind of breaks through this year. But at some point you're going to say, is this all Stott is? In this era of Phillies baseball, better days ahead or in the rear view? 609-403-0973. Thought it was a thought-provoking question. Want to see what the listeners think today. 609-403-0973. I don't even know how to answer that question yet. I know that there are younger players. They're on TV right now. Aiden Miller and Justin Crawford, but that's about it. There's not a lot of young, excitable guys that you are saying, like, once this group is done, I don't know how many more prime seasons does Bryce Harper have? How many more prime seasons does Trey Turner have? And even if Trey Turner has more prime seasons, are those prime seasons good enough? Or is this version of Trey Turner good enough? Castellanos, does he have another breakout, a 2021 season in him when he was with the Cincinnati Reds and he was hitting 300 with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs? Is that season coming back? I doubt it. Have we seen the best of this Phillies group?
To me, Mike, and I don't want to do a legislation of every single player on the roster, but I do think there are still some great prime years ahead for some of these guys. For guys like Castellanos and Real Muto, I don't foresee them doing anything better than they've ever done. I think those guys are on the downside of the mountain at this point. But I do think guys like Harper and Schwarber, they are still in their prime, and they can still put up, you called it an MVP caliber year. For Harper, I think that I think he has a couple of more of those in him. I think Schwarber has a few more prime for him, prime Schwarber years left in him, because their skill sets allow them to still be that guy. I'm conflicted on Turner because Turner is a guy where I know there's more there. You've seen the talent there. You're just not sure. I don't know if he's ever going to live up to that contract.
Never. I remember 2 years ago screaming to the high heavens, he's never a $300 million player, right?
You were one of the few people who looked at that contract and you said, I don't see it.
No.
You said that 2 years
Now,
ago.
I will say, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I didn't want the guy because I figured they went to the World Series. Adding Trey Turner could not hurt.
Well, your theory was all along of all of those shortstops that were free agents that year. Him and Dansby Swanson, and who was the other one? Machado?
Mm-hmm. No, the one, Correa.
Oh, Correa, yeah. That of that batch, you felt Turner made the most sense because of his skill set fit a specific need
because this is a team that struck out a lot, had a lot of guys who were boom or bust, and that he was supposedly be a more consistent hitter, a top-of-the-order guy.
A guy who hits for average.
An on-base guy, a stolen base guy, something that added something different from what the Phillies had. Now, so, yes, adding him I thought was a plus, but $300 million I think was weighing on him, and he was never a $300 million guy, so that puts more – this is like the NIL thing we were talking about yesterday. You're a college kid. You have $2 million that you took to come to that school, and now that is pressuring you. Here's Turner – a very good player, but not a $300 million player. And now the pressure of him coming to be the guy that is supposed to be your Pete Rose. Hey, we were right there. We just needed you. And he can't live up to it. Text board, Matt and Kate May says, Mike, if there are better days ahead for the Phillies, it is this season or bust, in my opinion. I can't really disagree with that, Matt. This is the make or break or better days ahead season. So if you don't win a World Series this year, this team's going to look a lot different next year, right?
Absolutely.
This team is going to look a lot different next year.
There's at least two guys in the roster in the starting lineup who will not be here next year.
Well, you got some contracts up.
Well, I'm thinking of, for example, I know Castellanos has one more year left on his deal after this year, but I could totally see them being like, Nick, thanks for everything. We're moving on.
If they can find a suitor.
Yeah,
it's always easy to say they want to move on, but you got to find a suitor.
You do, but I do.
And
think
I don't want
that
any crazy trades
I'm not
that are
Betner,
telling me
okay?
that you trade this guy and you get 7 prospects in return.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sometimes you just gotta cut the bait and let it go. Sometimes I think that's what Castellanos would end up being.
Matt in Northfield. Mike, the best days are in the rear view. To get by the Braves as a wild card and to fumble it twice will be how we remember this era of Phillies baseball.
I don't agree for this reason.
I don't know that I disagree with Matt.
So,
no, to get by the Braves in the wild card twice is a big statement that he made because they were the best team, and you lost each time to teams that were not as good.
But my reaction to that would be I
take that back. You beat the Braves at one time, and you got to a World Series. You lost to a better team in the Astros.
Right.
You beat the Braves the second time and lost to the Diamondbacks. That's the one that kicks you square in the cones.
I look at this Phillies team a lot like the 90s Braves. They're a team that is still there. They're still in that window. And the Braves only won one championship. But they got to multiple World Series where they ever won that championship. And then they got to another World Series and lost that one too. So, to me, I think the Phillies are right in that little groove right now.
I agree. But I think the one big difference with this team right now is you have Real Muto contract coming up.
Right.
Really nothing in the pipeline to replace him.
Not really.
Schwarber, contract coming up. Really, you do have Justin Crawford, but if you add Justin Crawford, let's just play along and say, hey, we're going to put him in the lineup. You lose 30, 40 home runs. You don't have anybody to replace that. So I imagine Schwarber might be someone you have to decide to come back. But now you're bringing Schwarber back where he is now probably getting past his big prime years.
Well, Schwarber's 32 this year. He's not really that old for a guy with his skill set. His skill set does not depend on speed and hyper athleticism. His skill set is power and making contact. And guys like that have a longer prime than the athletic dudes. And I think Schwarber losing weight last year and getting even better shape this year, I think he's investing in his body being good longer term. He's not one of these guys who, as he ages, he gets fluffier.
Well, the one guy is Real Muto being a catcher. Do you want to bring a catcher back?
Definitely.
So that's one. I'm not banging on Bryce Harper, but Bryce Harper's been hurt, and he's a guy that, listen, he's 32 years old. You probably have another 2 to 3 pretty big Harper years.
That's what I said before. I look at Harper, I say he's got 2 to 3 years where you're going to get Bryce Harper as you know it. And then it'll be diminishing returns.
Yeah, so with him, but the question is, what's around him? I mean, we've seen Harper. He is one of these guys. I mean, look, can't do it all yourself in baseball. He's got to have help around him. So, yeah, okay, Harper, let's say he's still hitting 290 with 30, 35 home runs, but he's got to have these guys around him. Castellanos, I think, you got this year, and then he signed again for next year. Let's just say Castellanos this year has an identical season to last year. And I think that's maybe
23 homers, 86 RBI, 254 batting average for Castellanos last year.
Which is okay. It's okay. But we've already seen that's not good enough. So, and listen, even if Castellanos walks out the door, like somehow they get rid of him, where are you getting a guy to replace? And he hasn't even been great. He's been
solid.
I'm going to be really nice today because I'm in a happy hour Friday kind of mood. He's been good. Not very good. Not great. Castellanos has been good. Now, I am someone who was a big fan of the Castellanos signing, and I have been disappointed by the production. That said, he's been good. He hasn't been great. It is an interesting question. This era of Phillies baseball, are the best days still to come, or have we already seen them? Was losing to the Astros in the World Series, was that the best at this era? I like that text from Matt in Northfield, who said losing to the beating the Braves twice and not getting anything out of that, because those Braves teams were, realistically, they were better than you. Through the
theory,
162,
yes.
they were better than you.
Through the regular season, yes.
Yeah, through 162, they were better than you.
But this is where baseball is a little weird, and this is where baseball is different than the other three team sports, and that is the regular season team can be so inflated by when you get to the postseason and you realize that they were basically, as you talk about, Mike, they were basically preying on bad teams starting pitching staffs throughout the year and compiling wins.
Which is, I think, what's going to happen with the Phillies this year. I think the Phillies are going to really prey on some bad teams, and with their pitching staff is going to allow them to really.
But that's where I go back to the 90s Braves. You said the pitching staff.
Yeah, the Braves had those great pitching staffs in the 90s.
To me, that's the stabilizer. The stabilizer for the Phillies right now, to me, it's less about the fact it's Harper, Schwarber, Turner, Castellanos, Bohm, etc. It's the fact that you could argue a 7-deep pitching staff, starting staff right now. And if your bullpen can be solid until the All-Star break, then you upgrade the bullpen, and then you're really cooking with gas.
I definitely think, well, I don't think, I'm pretty positive if they do not win the World Series this year with this core, this is the last we've seen. Because as I said, let's go back to the 2022 World Series, and you look at that batting lineup, right? You look at Game 6 of the World Series, the game that they lost to lose the World Series to the Astros. In that particular Game 6, they lost the game 4-1. Now, mind you, in that series, they got no hit one night, right? They got no hit in one of the games in the World Series. But you go back to Game 6. In that game, their lineup was Schwarber, Hoskins, Real Muto, Harper, Castellanos, Bohm, Segura, Vierling, and Sosa was the shortstop that night.
Right.
Now, the last 2 years, you've had Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Now, they had Harper hitting fourth in that particular run, and now he's, kind of hitting in the third spot. Real Muto has moved from the 3 spot down a little bit. Castellanos is still hitting number 5. Bohm has moved from 6 up to number 3 in most areas. Now, Segura's not here anymore. Vierling's not here anymore. I think we can all say that Segura and Vierling are like essentially Vierling and Marsh are almost like similar type of players.
Right. There's one's right-handed, one's left-handed.
And you substituted Trey Turner in for Segura.
Which is an upgrade.
Now, in this game, Sosa played short. You had Stott not starting in that game, and now you have Stott as the shortstop. I think Stott played shortstop. I'm surprised to see Sosa's name in the lineup. I don't really remember that being the case for all these games.
Was that the night the left?
Could have been right. Frambler Valdez threw in that game. So
yeah, that's why.
It could have been they were platooning the shortstop situation. But my point is, your lineup back then has a lot of the same characters from 2022 to 2023, 2024, and now 2025. How many teams go through something where you have 8 guys that are exactly the same for 4 seasons?
And I totally hear that, but I go back to what Steve Phillips, a former Mets GM, told you, Mike, earlier this week here on the Sports Bash, when he talked about the vibe he was getting from this team. Because Steve Phillips has been around baseball for a very long time. And I thought when he said this to you on Monday, it really stood out to me.
I really sensed some unfinished business and some hunger from this team. They understand that the unfinished business is at the end of the year. And in order to get to that place, they've got to start over and roll the boulder up the mountain again. And they get it. Like, you do that multiple times, same guys, and there's a level of, fatigue that can settle in. But that does not seem to be any part of this team. There's a level of grit and toughness.
Well said. Easy to say, but gosh, you got to ask 30-plus-year-old guys, a lot of them, to re-push the boulder back up the mountain. How much more pushing the boulder up the mountain do these guys want to do?
It would be different if they came into camp and they didn't have the positive vibe. If guys like Schwarber and Harper doing the interviews were like, here we go again. Like, they don't have that kind of attitude, at least everything I've heard and seen.
Yeah, I did hear Schwarber, they asked him about hitting leadoff. He says, I'll hit wherever they want me to hit. I just want to hit where the Phillies, think we can win a World Series. That's all I want to do. which is understandable to say. But hey, listen, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Do me a favor, hit the like button, repost, subscribe on YouTube, and be a part of the show that way. You can comment in the comments section. If you're listening on the radio, we always appreciate you as well. And don't forget, download the free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Coming up, we have another chance this hour for you to qualify to win tickets to go see the Phillies home opener at Citizens Bank Park. Listen for the sounder and your cue to call coming up later on this hour on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. When we come back, we'll ask Mike McGarry, are the Phillies' best days ahead or in the rear view? That and more next on the Sports Bash. 227, hang tight. That cue to call is coming up this hour to win a chance to win tickets for the Phillies home opener or Metallica coming to Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia this spring. We'll have our opening day watch party at Maynard's at Margate on Thursday, March 27th for the Phillies and the Nationals. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is back right here on a happy hour Friday. I'm going to get him into the conversation. The Phillies, 2022, they win the World Series. They lose in the NLCS. They lose in the NLDS. They have essentially the same cast of characters back. Mike McGarry, are the best days for this group ahead, or are they already behind them?
Both. That would be my answer. The best days could be ahead because I think this is a really good team capable of winning the World Series this year. But you can make a case, how long does this team have left together? It's probably now or never for this core group of Phillies right now. Obviously, Bryce Harper and Trey Turner are going to be here. But who knows if JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber will be here at the end of the season. So, yeah, I feel both ways. It's now or never. And the best days could be ahead, a World Series title, but it could be short-lived because you don't know what kind of future this current group has.
Yeah, and I know, I don't know who would be a part of it moving forward with the contracts. I mean, Realmuto, his deal's up. Schwarber, his deal up. I feel like, the Phillies don't really have a catcher in the pipeline here, so is Realmuto a guy that they have to bring back? I know we're looking ahead, but Schwarber, he's 32. Are you going to be a 35, 40 home run guy? Is he going to continue to hit like that, or is his power numbers going to drop a little bit? So even if you brought those guys back, you got Castellanos for this year and then another year after that. You're trying to look around and saying, man, how do I change this thing? It almost feels like if you don't win this year, there will be changes, but are you getting a better catcher than Realmuto? Are you getting a better player than Schwarber? So they're in a tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's now or never for this core group. And this core group, Schwarber, Castellanos, Realmuto, Harper, Turner, Wheeler, Nola, that core group, this could be the last run for these guys. There are definitely going to be changes after this season. Contract-wise says it. Ranger Suarez, another guy. He could be gone after this season. He's a free agent at the end of the season. If Bryson Stott doesn't bounce back, do you kind of look to trade him and move in another direction? A lot of talk about trading Alec Bohm in the offseason. What kind of year is he going to have if he's still, throwing his helmet around and not hitting the last 2 months of the season? In the postseason, does he come back next year? So, yeah, there's a certain kind of last ride feeling to this group of Phillies core as it is now. Having said that, they're still going to be pretty good no matter what happens this year with the guys they got coming back. Because Harper, Wheeler, Nola, Turner, those guys aren't going anywhere. And those guys are, a good, solid group to build a team around. But this team is going to look different this next year than this year.
Well, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is with us. And, Mike, we've talked about, you mentioned a lot of names, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Schwarber, Casti, Realmuto, Wheeler, Nola. Have they already given us the best seasons we've ever seen? Can we expect that any of them can outperform what they've already, what the best season they've given us can be?
Well, I mean, there's two guys on that list that I think can give you a better season. One is Trey Turner, definitely. I think he's in the crosshairs. If he doesn't give a better season this year than his first two seasons, I think a lot of people are going to start asking questions. So there's no doubt that Trey Turner is a guy who I think is capable of more. And I think Aaron Nola is a guy who's capable of a little bit more high-level consistency. It's tough to sort of say, Zach Wheeler's got to pitch better than he has the last 3 or 4 years. He could have won the Cy Young the last 3 or 4 years. It's tough to say Bryce Harper should have played better. The guy won an MVP. So, he's still expecting those guys to perform at high levels. But is there room for improvement on this team? Absolutely. And it comes with it starts with Trey Turner, and it starts with the younger guys, Stott and Bohm and Brandon Marsh, being more consistent. So, yeah, there's room for improvement with this group.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. All right, I want to shift gears a little. We're in March Madness. You covered all the high school finals. We're getting ready for the big tournament. I think were you at Boardwalk Hall last night? I think I saw you from afar.
I was at Boardwalk Hall last night, and I am speaking to you right now from the bowels of Boardwalk Hall as we speak. So I am here again today.
You are a Marist grad. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and that was a bad loss by the Red Foxes last night. They really had an outstanding season. They were the best team in the MAC for, most of the season. In the last 2 to 3 weeks, they went sideways. They lost last night and upset to Mount St. Marion. And in these one-bid leagues, Mike, it's 4 days in Atlantic City that can define your season. And the Marist men go home unhappy after last night's loss.
I agree. I was there last night. I will say, and, I wanted to bring you in on this because I thought I saw you. I know you cover it. There's some other things that, all right, so the building last night, decent crowd, nothing special. I will say, and this is out of Atlantic City's hands, that 8:30 start is tough, man. I mean, at 10 o'clock last night, I looked up at the scoreboard. I said there's still 10 minutes left to go in the game. That's one of the problems that I now see, going to these games. I was at the 6 o'clock when I got off. I got there about halftime. But that late game, man, that's a rough one, and there's not much they can do about that. And then the championship game on Saturday being at 7:30, that's a tough time, and I think that's television-related. I went to the game a couple of years ago, 3:30 start time. They had a really good crowd, 3:30 on a Saturday. 7:30, but 8:30 during the week, that's a tough sell.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. I'm an old guy now. I wish they played everything at 9 in the morning, basically. You got to keep in mind that these games are basically television shows. You mentioned last night the Marist game, 8:30 start, ended about 10:30, 11 o'clock. By the time I got to my car, drove home, it was about midnight, and I got home, and Connecticut and I believe it was Villanova was still playing in Madison Square Garden in the Big East tournament at 12:30 at night. So, I think what we got to keep in mind is these things are built for television, right? It's like and I almost think the live crowd is almost like a studio audience at a television show. You want as many people there to create a big atmosphere, but really what these conference tournaments do is provide programming for ESPN during championship week. And I'll just say this, Mike, today is the semifinal day. I just watched a great women's semifinal. The Fairfield women avoided an upset. They're the number 1 seed. They made a layup with about 10 seconds to go to come from behind and win the game. And to me, the best night of the MAC tournament is tonight. The men's semifinals, you see 2 games, 2 great games. Yeah, it's 6 and 8:30, but it's Friday night. We could stay out a little late. 2 great games for the price of 1. And if you're going to come to the MAC tournament, tonight's the night to do it. This, to me, is the best basketball night, the most entertaining night, the most bang for your buck night of the tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll be there tonight. I'll get there about halftime of the first game because I have a job that gets me off at 6. But 6 o'clock, that's about the earliest you can go during the week. So I get it. I'm not blaming anybody for that. I will say the other issue is I live here my whole life, and I think there's a lot of people who live here and have no idea that Boardwalk Hall actually has parking underneath of it. Just to figure out the whole parking situation, I think, is another crazy thing, trying to just figure out where to go. But if you're going to the game tonight, they do have parking underneath Boardwalk Hall that you can check out as well. But you're right, Mike, big night tonight, 2 games, great atmosphere, a lot of fun. And, the one thing you talk about atmosphere, the acoustics of that building are so great that when you hear the bands getting involved and it just carries through that place, it does give it such a great atmosphere.
Yeah, Mike, when I came here yesterday, it's funny you mentioned that. I walked into Boardwalk Hall and, I hadn't been in here in a while. And I just say to myself, this is a spectacular arena, really a hidden gem. And I've been in a lot of arenas. The sight lines are great. It's loud. You're on top of the action. I mean, I don't understand. If you're a basketball fan locally, and everybody's a basketball fan in March, how you don't, sample this tournament, I don't know, because it's great basketball. It's a 1-bid league, which means you're seeing elimination games. Teams are playing with desperation because this isn't the ACC, the Big East, or the Big Ten. If you lose here, you're not going to the NCAA tournament. If you win here, you are. So I just think, the location is great, the arena is great, the acoustics are great, and the basketball is great. And if you're a basketball fan, I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't come out here and sample the product. It's here this year, and it'll be back next year, and then who knows. But to me, it's just a fabulous couple of days and a fabulous tournament. It allows you to sort of get an in-person taste of March Madness.
Yes, I agree with all that. If you're a basketball fan, if you're just a family that wants a night out, it's an awesome, awesome time. There's not a bad seat. If you're on a budget, you could buy the cheapest ticket in there. and sit wherever because you could see from everything. And I'll give you some advice. You could buy a cheap ticket and move down. There's generally seats available. I will say the parking is more expensive than the ticket, and that's something that needs to be worked out too. You can't have an event where the parking is more expensive than the ticket.
Well,
but
Mike, you make a great point there because even myself, I'm not sure where to park. Do you park under the arena? Do you park in a casino next door? I mean, what do you do there? If you park in the casino next door, it's $20 to park. So I agree with you there. Maybe a little bit more direction on
now next year. Correct me if I'm
where to go, that sort of stuff.
Now next year, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. The tournament will be the previous week with the championship game being on a Tuesday night because they have partnered with ESPN Television. So I believe they will be now playing when like most of the mid-major conferences are going on.
That is correct, Mike. The men will be Tuesday. The women's championship will be Monday. If you remember, I don't know how many this will be a little bit in the weeds. I don't imagine there's too many MAC enthusiasts out there in the listening audience. But for years, when the tournament wasn't in Atlantic City, the MAC used to play on Monday nights on ESPN. That was sort of the night for their championship game. So the Monday of championship week, the MAC would always be there. And they got, kind of identified with that night. And they believe moving back to earlier in the week, in this case, Tuesday, will give them more attention because let's face facts, the championship game will get lost nationally. Tomorrow you've got, Big East championships, you got ACC, Big 10, Big 12. You're going to get swallowed up by the Power 5 conferences. So this moving earlier in the week will allow the MAC to sort of gain more of a national profile with the championship games being on Monday and Tuesday of next year.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you heard this bite last night from Mick Cronin. He is the head basketball coach at UCLA. He's been all over the place, and he had something kind of interesting. And I bring you into this because you do cover high school sports. You do cover professional sports. This is the college game. This is what Mick Cronin said last night after his team's game.
Too much goes on in youth basketball where it's about me and not we. And it's not the kids' fault. They're a product of the system. Then they get to guys like me or Coach Izzo. We're trying to tell you got to play defense, you got to play smart. Everybody else just lets them run around, shoot every time. Get beat on defense, they don't come out. Just not helping them, though. That's why you hear all the NBA guys now talking about why there's so many Europeans, because they actually play real basketball. There's no such thing as a pickup game in Europe.
So he's essentially saying, the system is broken. You're around, quote unquote, the system more at the high school level. You see the college game from time to time at the pro level. Is Mick Cronin onto something here?
I think Mick Cronin is absolutely nuts, Mike. And I'm talking about a guy who covers high school sports and also a guy who's coached a fair number of youth basketball games in his day. Earlier this season, Mick Cronin was complaining because, the Big Ten now includes UCLA and USC from Los Angeles, and he was complaining that he had to play Rutgers on the East Coast. I mean, Mick Cronin makes millions of dollars a year to coach UCLA, and he's going to blame the state of basketball today on Mike McGarry, a volunteer coach in Howell Township, New Jersey. Spare me your preaching from Mount Olympus, Mick Cronin. You're getting paid $1 million a year. Figure it out and fix the team yourself. Don't point your finger at the Mike McGarrys of the world who are volunteering their time in their local communities and say it's my fault that kid didn't know what to do with the ball in the final seconds. That's your fault, Mick Cronin. You're getting paid millions of dollars. And, hey, Mick, I'll switch bank accounts with you, and I'll teach the kids how to play at UCLA, and you come down here and write the Fairfield woman's story, okay?
Well, to be fair, I don't know that he's pointing the finger at the Mike McGarry recreational coach. I think he's kind of looking at the bigger picture of what has happened, that the recreational guy is kind of pushed to the side, and he's now dealing with something that almost sounds like he thinks the what he's getting is thought to be bigger than what he is.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what he's going. He's bemoaning.
Well, let me ask you. You cover high school basketball.
Right.
I don't know the answer to this question. I'm legitimately asking you. Do the players view their high school seasons or teams as more important than now their AAU teams?
Well, I think and in some cases, I think it's even, right? I think they love their AAU teams. It gives them a chance to shine. They develop lifelong friendships with people. It gives them a chance to attract the attention of college coaches and work on their skills in some cases. And just like anything in the world, Mike, there are good AAU programs that do a great job, and there are bad AAU programs that don't do a good job. So it's just like anything else in the world. But I still think today kids love their high school basketball teams and their experience. And in my line, Mike, when the high school basketball season ends and I saw the Middle Township girls season end and the Ocean City boys season end, every kid came out of the locker room with tears in their eyes because their high school season was over.
Right.
And I guarantee you that nobody ever cried after an AAU game. Nobody cries after they lose an AAU game or when their AAU season is over. But you cry when your high school season is over. So I think that sort of answers the question. AAU is very important. Kids have to play it today. They have to be battle tested. Could that system be changed? Absolutely. Do we need to work on more player development and not just play 100 games at Hoop Group on a weekend? Yes. But I defy anybody who looks at a team that loses in the state tournament, and I do it all the time, and see those kids come out of the locker room with tears in their eyes. That's what it means. So
and you saw
just as much today.
You saw the kid from Kansas State the other night, the NIL, the pressure that here's a kid who took $2 million and acknowledged that taking that money, he was in tears because the finality of the situation, and that he said the fact that I took that money put so much pressure on me that I could not live up to it. I find that to be a sad situation as well.
Well, I mean, again, it's not a perfect system, but for years we complained that, the NCAA tournament, CBS was giving the NCAA $1 billion and the players weren't getting any of it. And, yeah, we know from pro athletes. We just talked about Trey Turner earlier. You can make a convincing argument that signing a $300 million contract and the pressure to live up to that contract has kind of sent Trey Turner sideways the past two seasons. So, yeah, with money comes pressure and comes responsibility. But for years we complained that the players weren't getting paid at all, and now we're saying they're getting paid and it's too much pressure on them. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere. But, yeah, I agree with you. It is tough when players feel pressure like that. And for an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid to deal with it, it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. But again, too much is given, much is expected. And with that talent comes responsibility if you're going to reap the financial benefits, basically.
All right, last one for Mike McGarry. No NBA team right now wants to win a game that is outside the playoffs. They've got to do something about this. It benefits these teams in no way, shape, or form to win games. Would there be any interest in a non-playoff tournament with the winner getting the number 1 pick in the draft and the runner-up getting the number 2 pick in the draft?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's maybe a good idea, but I don't know how much they would want to sell a tournament like that. To me, it might be a better suggestion is to look at the regular season, because that's what we're worried about right now. Teams aren't playing in the regular season, and we're talking about the Sixers tanking to get to the number 6 spot. Maybe instead of having your lottery odds get better with the worse your record is, maybe the team with the best lottery odds is the team that just misses the playoffs. So
I've thrown that out there for years, Mike. That has been my suggestion for years.
Maybe Team 21 gets the number 1 pick, and 22 gets the second pick. That way, there's incentive to keep playing and keep winning. Because I agree with you. Right now we're in the stage of the NBA season where we're just waiting for the playoffs to begin, and we're watching some teams try and, about 8 or 9 teams not try at all. So we did that in my fantasy league, Mike, because we didn't like people dumping. And
that's what we did.
It seemed to work.
Yeah, I've been throwing that out for years. We've done that in my fantasy league for like the last 10 years. I agree with you. If you finish the 9 seed, you have the best odds because you got to keep trying to win to move up the list. Okay, we had a rough season. Someone got hurt. We didn't play the way we want. But you can't have a game between the Sixers and the Raptors where it doesn't benefit either team to win that game. That is just not the way that this should be going at this, anymore. And you see it way more in basketball than you do in any other sport because the draft is so much more important than basketball than it is in some of these other sports. But all right, Mike, I'll let you get back to the game. We'll see you over there tonight. Appreciate you, pal.
All right, looking forward to it. We'll see you tonight. Take care.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com on the Sports Bash Live. Fired up today, Mike McGarry. He says, I'll go coach the team. You go write about the Fairfield women. Probably a good game over there. If you're not over there, you're missing it. Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Got a couple text messages from people who did go to the game last night. Mike went to the game, saw you, wanted to come say hello, but you're at the opposite end. Well, say hello next time. I'll be hanging out there tonight. So took the kids. We had a blast. There's public parking across the street for $10. Okay, good spot. Jeff in Ocean City. Mike, park at Caesars. Last night, $15. I'm going to the title game tomorrow night, courtesy of 99 Growlers. Jeff, good stuff. Good to see you there. Hope to see you there. I'll be there tonight and tomorrow. I'm actually calling the game tomorrow night for the national radio broadcast, so I'll be there tonight just hanging out, watching the games. I was there last night. I'll be there again tonight. All right, more Sports Bash coming up. Listen, for your cue to call, you can win Phillies home opener tickets. That is coming up here on the Sports Bash. There you go. It's our contest sounder. Your cue to call is right now, 609-573-3776. Caller 6 and caller 7. You are entered for a chance because we have 2 pairs of tickets we're giving away. 1, win Phillies home opener tickets, or tickets to see Metallica at Lincoln Financial Field. Caller 6 and caller 7, 609-403-0973, or excuse me, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. You must be present to win at our Phillies opening day watch party at Maynard's in Margate, 9306 Amherst Avenue. We will be live giving away a pair of tickets to the Phillies home opener with a parking pass, or Metallica tickets for Lincoln Financial Field. It's your choice. Caller 6, caller 7. Right now, good luck. 3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Hey, congratulations, Pearson in Petersburg, Brian in Egg Harbor Township. You guys are entered for a chance to win Phillies home opening tickets or tickets to see Metallica play at Lincoln Financial Field. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. We are going to be live at Maynard's in Margate for the opening day watch party on Thursday, March 27th. It's open to the public, but you must enter to win the home opener tickets. That includes a parking pass or the Metallica tickets. Listen this hour for another chance to enter here on the Sports Bash. By the way, the Eagles did make another signing just a little while ago, according to Diana Rossini. The Eagles are signing kick returner and punt returner Avery Williams, which kind of jives with the fact that they let Britton Covey walk. So that would probably be a sign that they don't want Cooper DeJean returning the punts anymore. We'll talk to John McMullen about the week that was, what these moves mean, and what could be next as we kind of have an Eagles recap of the first week of NFL free agency with John McMullen for Birds 365, weekday mornings, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. He joins me now on the Sports Bash. Johnny Mac, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Always good.
Special Teams Day.
Yes, they had a long snapper in there as well, so they're kind of tweaking some things there. But let's kind of take a look back at the week that was. I want to kind of start. A.J. Dillon was late Wednesday night after you got off the air with us. So A.J. Dillon, kind of a higher quality of a running back as your backup there, but it kind of fits the Howie mold that, you know, hey, 1-year deal for a guy who's been productive coming off of an injury.
Yeah, didn't play last season, so that's why he would be in that category. You know, it's funny. Before the Eagles got the Saquon Barkley business and we were still in the thought process that they wanted to be more cost effective, I kind of brought up A.J. Dillon's name as a potential fit because I always wanted to see a big physical back behind the Eagles' offensive line, and he's as big and as physical as they come. The question now is he healthy? And we talked to him this morning. Really nice guy, really well-spoken, made a great first impression. But you got to see if he's healthy. And, you know, he's been cleared, but you miss a whole season and you have neck issues and you run the football the physical way that he runs the football. It's got to be somewhat of a concern. And I think that's why a player like that is getting a 1-year deal for, you know, very little money. He was a really good back in Green Bay as a number 2 to Aaron Jones. So, you know, it's a solid roll to the dice, I would say.
Yeah, would you say, in your mind, is this if he's healthy, is this an upgrade to Gainwell, and does he have a bigger role than Gainwell?
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the problem too, because I don't necessarily see as good a fit as Kenny was as the backup to Saquon Barkley, because I think, you know, generally when you want a little bit of a change up, to use a baseball analogy, you're talking about opening day, and this is, you know, even though Saquon can do everything, but at his core, he's a 232-pound power back, even though he can, you know, he's got long speed. I always compare him to Adrian Peterson because he's got the great jump cut, but they're not like jitterbug types, water bug types. And that's generally what you want. If you think about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, you got Thunder and you got Sonic. And here it's like Thunder and Thunder, you know. So I'm not sure if you have the change up and it's like fastball, you want to throw the curveball to set up the fastball, usually when you do these types of things. So the fit is kind of curious to me.
Well, here would be my follow-up question to you here, because I agree with you that, yeah, he's a difference, but this is almost like, can we take more off of Barkley's back because we have somebody who can be a similar type that Barkley, so we don't have to rely on Barkley as much?
Well, and I kind of brought that up on my show. I was like, you know, if to me, what would make some sense. And you still, I think the Eagles are very cognizant of all these young players. They want to step up and take the next step in their careers, but they don't want to hand them things or coordinate things. In a lot of ways, I think Will Shipley would still be the better backup on a game day to Saquon Barkley because you have that change-up ability if he can handle it, if he can take that next step. And if if something unfortunate happened, and Saquon sprains an ankle or something, has to miss a game, then I think A.J. Dillon would be better to be the lead back and keep Shipley at number 2, if that makes sense. So I think if Barkley's out there, I think the better counter is Will Shipley, in theory, on paper. Again, young player, you have to see if he can handle it. But if you didn't have Barkley, then I think the better way to go is A.J. Dillon. So
who has a bigger role? Who has a bigger role than Dillon or Shipley?
Well, I think, and to get back to your original point, I should also say, now we're playing load management with Saquon Barkley. Like, I'm not taking Saquon Barkley off the field if he's healthy. I went through a whole season where Nick Sirianni would get, by the end of the season, he was tired of answering the question. And his constant answer was, we take care of Saquon during the week. He doesn't practice much. He doesn't and their load management was between the week. On game day, they were going to use him to win the game. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, if that changes, I'm like, what are we doing here? You're not taking that player off the field in key situations.
Well, can you keep rocking him to 350 carries a year?
Well, my mentality is run him until, use him until you can't use him. Yeah. That's the ugly part of football, but.
Right, exactly. John McMullen's with us here, of course, Birds 365. Josh Uche is a linebacker, edge rusher, kind of a one-trick pony, had one big year, 11.5 sacks, got him a contract, hasn't done anything since, got traded. This is another Howie Roseman signing, though. High, reward potential, low risk, 1 year. I would imagine to me, he is more of like a Nolan. He's a smaller guy, 6'1", like 230, more in that Nolan Smith kind of small tweener. But give us your thoughts on Josh Uche coming to Philadelphia.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. One-trick pony, but you get him for $2 million instead of 50 wins.
Yeah, more on him coming up, by the way.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. To me, he had 11.5 sacks, I think, in 2022. So, there's something in there, and it's a worthy lottery ticket again. And it's kind of, I've dubbed it the Temu off season. If anyone shops at Temu out there for the Eagles, they need extra bodies at edge rusher after losing Josh Sweat. Brandon's going to retire, so they need bodies. And if he works great. If he doesn't, he can move on. So, it's very low risk, probably medium reward. I don't see it going crazy and having 11.5 sacks and 35% of the snaps or whatever he played in. But they need these support players, and I think Josh has got a chance to be that fourth edge rusher. But if there's anything better, if he's forced to be number 3 or, God forbid, number 2, then I think you're probably in trouble.
Yeah, I know you look at a situation where every time somebody has some talent and had a big year, you're always hopeful that, hey, we're the coaching staff that can get something out of them. The edge rusher spot hasn't really been, that spot in Philadelphia where you just grab some guy and, Gerald Avery, they tried that with. It didn't really work out. Although Vic Fangio's different, we'll see. Josh Uche, 1-year deal, about $2 million. But as we've talked about this week, John, you and I, they'll give you 1 year, come prove it, but we're not giving you 2 year if you're a backup player, so that would suggest that's where they think there. Let's go to Bryce Huff, the aforementioned, because there are some reports the Eagles are open to trade talks. That is not surprising. I guess what would be surprising if anybody's interested?
Well, I think be people interested. I mean, I think that's one of the
3-year, $51 million he signed. So 1 year is off. So he's down to 2 years on that deal.
Well, there are 4 other teams ready to give him that kind of money last year.
Woo.
So, I mean, it's not like the Eagles were out on the islands. I mean, he was a big time want for a number of teams in the Eagles. And some people will say, unfortunately, we're able to get him. But I do think there are some teams now. The Eagles aren't working from a position of strength here after the season he had and the contract he has, so they're not going to get much back if they are able to deal him or can deal him. I still think it'd be best to run it back for 1 more year simply because of what I said. Right now you're planning, and I shouldn't say the term planning because there's no way the Eagles would enter a season where Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt were going to be their starting edge rushers. There's just no way. Nolan showed a lot of promise, but he's done it for half a season. And Jalix showed a lot of promise, and he's done it for a couple games. This is a Super Bowl team, and that is a position of importance. They're just not going to do that. So, I would give it 1 more year if I were Howie, and that's what he said earlier this offseason. He's doing 2 things. He doesn't want to completely kill the player because if he does want to trade him, he's got to keep up as much value as possible.
What's the penalty for trading him?
Well, you lose about there's quite a bit of dead money, and they lose. I think I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's at least 5, 6, if I recall.
Well, just to give the listeners some insight, John, people just feel like sometimes you just trade a guy and then his contract goes to somebody else. That's not always the case.
No, well, if you want more, if somebody's picking up that contract, they're probably giving you a 7th or a conditional 7th that maybe can turn into a 6th because you're trading the contract. Now, there has been more of a baseball/basketball mentality with some of these newer GMs that they're willing to pay some of the salary to get a better draft pick. So it depends how the Eagles want to handle that, although they're very cash centric this offseason because they understand what's coming down the pike with guys like Cam Jurgens and Jalen Carter. So they're trying to be very disciplined when it comes to cash spending. So I don't think they're going to be offering part of the contract. So they're not going to get much if they expect another team to pay that contract.
All right, John McMullen's with us looking back at the week that was week 1 of NFL free agency, which, now everything kind of slows. You get to that second wave, which we're kind of in right now. Let's go to Harris and Bryant because this obviously will be tied to Dallas Goedert in some way here. 1 year, $2 million. That suggests, hey, 1 year deal. You're in that backup role, but maybe a little bit more here. But give us some thoughts on Harris and Bryant and why this one could be interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty with Dallas Goedert. He's in the same boat with Bryce Huff. Could be on the trade market for different reasons. Obviously, he's been effective, but he's last year of his deal. He's got no guaranteed money, so something's got to work out. The Eagles don't want to go long-term. He wants longer-term, so it's a difficult situation from that standpoint. But the Eagles would certainly need help. I would argue if Dallas Goedert leaves, on paper, that might be the worst position on the Eagles, tight end. We've talked about all these young players they want to step up, and there's legitimate prospects at almost every position. Will Shipley, I think, has a legitimate upside. Kaylee Ringo at corner, Sidney Brown at safety, Jalix Hunt at edge rusher, who we just mentioned, Tyler Steen at guard. There's legitimate upside to these players. Even Kenyon Green is a trade pickup. At tight end, I don't see it. And, Grant Calcaterra and Harrison Bryant, that's not good enough, certainly for a Super Bowl team. So, the draft is very deep at tight end. They're probably going to draft a tight end, I would say, in the first 2 days. More day 2, obviously, but Likely. It's right now that's a position of need, and they bring in a veteran guy who's played probably, right now, probably the second best tight end they got, and that's not good.
Yeah. Well,
So-
Goddard, let's go over him a little because he's made it to Friday. Are you surprised that nothing's moved there yet? I mean, obviously reporting that they're open to trades, and, obviously he's in a tough spot here. Played in 10 games, 42 catches, 496, so the numbers don't jump off. So other teams might be, this is a weird dynamic in the NFL, I find, where the reports are, well, if they don't trade him, he's going to get released. So then I guess it's, if you really want him, you got to be the team that trades him. But it's like, well, if you're just going to release him anyway, why do we need to give you something? There's that whole cat and mouse game. So is that kind of where we are with Goddard at this point, or are they hoping they can figure out a way to get him back, or that he just says, you know what, I want to be here regardless of my contractual situation? This is, now we're at Friday.
I can't imagine they're cutting Dallas Goedert. He's too good. He's too good of a player. He came off of, people quickly forget how good he was in the postseason. I know there's some frustration because he hasn't been able to stay healthy for a full season, but he returned. He was the Eagles' leading receiver in the postseason. It's the second leading postseason receiver of all time, and he was generally jockeying back and forth with Devontae Smith for that title. And Devontae repassed him in the Super Bowl, but there's no way I could see them cutting Dallas Goedert. Nor should they. Again, to me, it comes down to the problem. It's difficult to trade him before June 1st because of the salary cap hit.
Well, they don't, and you say no way they are. They don't have to, right? He has another year left. This would be on him whether he wants to play on the current deal, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way of the modern NFL. Generally, star players, and he's still a star player, when their guaranteed money is up and his guaranteed money is up, you got to do something about it. But technically, he's still under contract. So if the Eagles wanted to play hardball, they could say, all right, just play out the final year of your contract. Once day one of the season, it's all guaranteed anyway. Mm-hmm. So it becomes fully guaranteed. But that's just not the way they typically do business. And you never want disgruntled players. Saw with Hassan Reddick in year 2. It's never a good thing. So they try to avoid it as much as possible. Sometimes you can't avoid it. If you can't work something out, whether it's trade or whether it's extension or whether it's a Josh Sweat situation where you give him his free agency a little bit early and give him some money for that. Who knows? All those things are on the table, but yeah, I think the one thing they're not going to do is just release him.
All right, John McMullen's with us. There you go. And I like this text message. It says, I'm on my way to One Jets Drive to tell the GM he's an idiot if he doesn't think Goddard's worth a 2026 fourth-round pick. That's another thing. How are teams around the league saying we're not willing to give up a fourth for Dallas Goedert? That's another perplexing thing for me if that reporting is accurate.
Well, fans just don't understand the trade value of players. A, he costs a lot of money. B, he's over 30. It's just not how it works in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I mean, to hire the contract, that's, a major thing. People say all the time, how could you get a fifth-round pick only for Deebo Samuel? Look at his contract. That's how.
That's how, right. And basically they're paying, taking a cheap price in return just so they had money to sign Purdy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
by the way, 1 year left on the Goddard deal, and he has, about $12 million cap hit here. He's got a dead cap of $11 million.
Yeah, and the cap before June 1st, you're losing about $8-9 million in cap space, I believe, and if you have it in front of you. And then after June 1st, you'll gain some cap space. But the problem with that is, if you wait to June 1st, everybody's already budgeted. They don't necessarily have the money to sign a player like that, an extension of what Dallas Goedert would want. They've already budgeted their assets. They may have signed tight end. Denver was a team that was reportedly interested in Dallas Goedert. And then they went out and signed Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, let's get to it.
Let's
go to Adoree Jackson, another 1-year deal. He is 29 years old. Is he? You and I talked about this on your show. You don't want to hand someone a job. Is he there to push, or is he there to be?
No, he's there to push. Obviously, when he signed somebody to a 1-year prove-it deal, they're here to push. I mean, at all these positions, the ultimate goal is for the young players that we've been talking about to step up. But you don't want to hand them things. You don't want to coronate them. You want them to earn it, and you want to have that insurance plan. In the case of Adoree Jackson, this is a player the Eagles wanted to sign with his free agent leaving Tennessee, and the Giants got him in first. He was scheduled to visit here back when occasionally people take visits. You've seen visits today. Russell Wilson is going around. Now we're at the phase where teams will have visits with players. It used to be a regular thing. Back then, Adoree was in New York and he was scheduled to come to Philadelphia, and the Giants didn't let him out of the building, signed him. I think it was a 3-year, $39 million deal. It's a big money deal. And he went there. Eagles have liked this player for a long time, but he's not, he's 29, as you mentioned. He's played 8 seasons now. So there's some, I always say in the NFL, things don't stay the same for a long time. Things are not static. And you could be a $39 million player, and 4 years later, you're signing a 1-year prove-it deal.
Right.
And that's Adoree Jackson. But he's played a lot of football. He's been a good player for a long time. I think of those 4 signings that you won over, this is the most significant one. Who could be a starter, at least in the short term, if you needed that.
All right, there you go. A little breakdown of everything that has happened. And then the second week. Next week is when Howie really gets his hands dirty, right? This is when we start to see some more interesting moves, or you think it slows down and they kind of filled all
No, it's going to slow down. I mean, they populated. That's the second part of this, they're draft proofing. You saw today was Special Teams Day. It'll slow down next week, but you'll certainly see some players. And even after June 1st, even after the draft, last year they weren't able to get the offensive lineman. Mekhi Becton was here 2 days later. So it's not over, but it will start to slow down.
All right, John McMullen, you can see him weekday mornings, 8 a.m. on Birds 365. And when news happens right here, we try to chap into John as much as we can on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as the Eagles' offseason continues here on a interesting week that they've had so far. All right, John, hopefully nothing happens this weekend.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Take care. If something happens this weekend, John's got to do the emergency videos and all that good stuff. And, of course, Monday we'll be back here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Good to be with you. The Eagles also signed kick returner, punt returner Avery Williams, another guy who missed all of last year. He had an injury. Was with, I think, the Falcons in 2023. Yes, Falcons 2023. He'll kind of replace Britton Covey, would be, imagine. We can get more on that a little bit later on in the show. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live. And coming up, we got so much to dive into. I do want to get into some of the things that they were talking about on the Philly Show podcast. Todd Zalecki, Ruben Amaro Jr., talking about the Phillies and the potential for Trey Turner and why maybe they feel like they might have unlocked something with him. We'll get into that a little bit later. Plus, a former Cowboy acknowledges they are not winning the Super Bowl. And then chaos ensued. That's still coming up on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. This hour of the show, it is brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your plumbing and service installation service for generations. Call them at 609-390-3907, online at broadlees.net. 3:31, happy hour Friday. I got some picks for the people today, Josh. I got some picks for the people. You going to the MAC tonight?
That is the working plan, yes.
I'm going tonight.
We are going to make it happen.
Going tonight, going tomorrow. Was there last night. Went with Earnshaw last night.
I heard.
Nuggets came down. We met up. We went over there, watched first game, and we left with about 10 minutes left of the second game. A little late, man. A little late for somebody who has to do a 4-hour talk show the next day.
Well, you're not really a night person anyway, so.
I used to be. I'm just old now. You knew me when I was a young man. Remember Boxcar Racer, by the way? That was the music bringing us back from the break.
That's very much your era.
Very much so.
Very much
Blink 182 side project there. I don't know why I'm in the Boxcar Racer mood today. Happy Hour Friday, maybe?
Hey, man, whatever floats your boat. You know, I can totally see you knocking back, a good IPA while listening to Boxcar Racer.
I will say, was a little disappointed with the beer selection on the menu last night.
I can't say I'm.
Yeah. Well, last year, I've been there before where they have at least had one offering for me.
Okay.
Not so last night.
Last night was not the night for you.
Nah, it's not my style. I mean,
Was it Earnshaw style, or did he?
neither one of us had any libations last night. But I looked because I'm thinking, all right, Friday night, I'm going for a night out.
Right.
Nothing better than a little boardwalk hall, MAC basketball Friday night. Check it out. Bang, here we go. And I was a little disappointed.
All right.
It's all right. I mean, what are you going to do?
At least you now
Not
know.
everybody's there to cater to me.
Yeah, now your hopes won't be built up for tonight, right?
I guess I didn't walk all the way around the concourse, but like the menu that's like where the seats are where we are, like they have a menu down there.
Yes.
They were not on that menu. So maybe there's a place somewhere on the upstairs, I think, that you could probably go.
So is it something where you say, hey, it's halftime, let me wander around and see what might be here?
I'm hoping.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst?
Yep. So you're going tonight. Earnshaw going tonight?
So the last thing Nuggets told me, he said he was going to go last night, tonight, and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. That's what he told me.
So that's what he told me.
Well, he'll be on in an hour.
Yeah, we can ask him again.
He said he was going. He said Schwein was going on Saturday.
Schweim's going Saturday, yeah, because me and Billy are doing the show in Atlantic City in the morning.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, Billy loves to give me his entire itinerary of his life instead of just answering like one simple question. So I know Billy's entire life itinerary from now until Sunday.
Good stuff. I don't need to know that.
Nobody needs to know.
All right, so let's get into some of this Philly stuff here. What do we got?
So I was listening to the Philly Show podcast, with Zalecki, Ruben Amaro Jr., and Jim Salisbury. And I thought it was interesting because part of the conversation was, so apparently Zalecki had a one-on-one conversation with hitting coach Kevin Long for the Phillies. And they were talking about how Trey Turner started spring training out very cold. Then you saw, or at least you may have heard about folks out there yesterday, that Trey Turner had a leadoff home run. He almost took out the tiki bar back out there in left field.
I got a text from a friend of mine who said that. He said, Trey Turner just hit one to the tiki bar right where we're normally standing.
So Lecky was asking Kevin Long, hey, what has been going on with this evolution, shall we call it, of Trey Turner getting these reps as a leadoff hitter? I thought his explanation for what Trey Turner was doing coming into camp is a little bit enlightening. Take a listen.
Trey, coming into camp, was so focused on letting the ball, backing up on the ball and going to the opposite field. He said he kind of got caught in between in his decision-making. He said he feels like Trey's getting more comfortable in that decision-making process right now.
That's interesting. Trey Turner's, 31 years old?
Turning 32, yeah.
And it's like, at this point, does he feel like that he has to, that people have figured him out as a hitter a little bit, that he has to now come up with like a new trick?
I mean, is it just part of your growth as a hitter where you say, I want to get better at something?
Well,
or...
listen, it's good to see that, like, if you're a hitter, like, you tell people all the time, like, hey, you can use all fields. The ball lands in right. If you're a right-handed hitter and you hit a ball that hits the grass in right field, it counts to your batting average the same as a ball that hits the grass in left field. There is no extra batting points added to your average if you hit a ball to left field and you're right-handed, or if you hit the ball to right field and you're right-handed. You are allowed to use the opposite field. So, all right, I'm interested to see what else he has to say, because is he suggesting that Turner came in wanting to use all fields?
That was the suggestion, that Turner was trying to focus more on hitting the ball the other way, to which Ruben Amaro Jr. says that he thinks the reason why Turner's doing that has to do with what happened for the Phillies last season. Take a listen.
It's like a fine line. You want to get into your hitting position early to be able to make those decisions, but you want to be able to wait longer and see the ball longer so that you're swinging at strikes. Obviously, it's been an issue, especially late in the season when, they're sort of exploiting the Phillies' aggressiveness. And when you are really an aggressive hitter, you want to make sure that you see the ball longer so that you can swing at strikes.
Hey, listen, I think a really hard thing to do is to adjust your approach. It's a hard thing while you're doing it in the moment. Like, while you're up there, your approach is your approach. And to have it, if you start thinking, that's when you've lost.
Right. Once you start thinking, you get, as Amara mentioned, you get like stuck.
You're done. If you start thinking, you are now out of it. You're screwed. I hope that's not what's going on right now with Trey Turner, that now he starts to think too much. Well, I wanted to hit the ball the opposite way. What? They told me not to focus on, you know what I'm saying? Like, when Pat Burrell he signed that contract and then he struggled really bad.
Right.
And one of the thoughts was, well, he had all these different people in his head telling him what to do, and that maybe it was just like information overload.
Right. Just simplify it. Let's get back to basics instead of just being like, let's do 20 different things. Like,
It's hard. It's easy to say. It's hard to get it. It's hard to clear your mind sometimes. When something happens and you're thinking about it and you're like all worked up about it, like, come on, don't worry about it. You're like, it's easy for you to say.
Right. Now, Zielecki said he also talked to Kevin Long, and Long gave him a little information about what Trey Turner said to Kevin Long about what his mindset is right now in the middle of March.
Trey told Kevin Long that as long as I feel good with about 3 or 4 days to go before the season starts, I think I'll be okay.
Again, easier said. As long as I feel okay with 3 or 4 days, it's a long season, and we're going to look back at spring training and you don't remember anything that happened.
Is it possibly a good sign that even though Trey Turner started out spring training rough, that he's saying, hey, I understand that I got some time to figure this out, to get myself going?
And that's the one thing about baseball that's interesting. We talk about in football, they want to lessen the amount of exhibition games. That's, that they don't need any exhibition games. They don't play the starters anyway. Basketball, hockey, their exhibition games are more just to get up and down the ice, get up and down the court to get a little cardio going. Baseball is still these games are I don't want to say they have the most realistic feel to them because you are seeing the starting players, and they are sometimes playing full games, because they are trying to get their timing down, and they are trying to get all of that stuff ironed out before the long season.
So Ruben Amaro Jr., people might not remember, they might know him as the former GM of the Phillies, Mike, but he also was a former player for the Phillies. He talked about, a little bit more about what Trey Turner's mentality is as a player getting ready for the season.
You want to be in a position to have all of your mechanisms, straightened out. Your timing, your legs underneath you, and also your ability to recognize pitches. And Kevin Long is very hopeful that most of the guys get to that point. But typically, most of the veteran guys get to that point. They know how many at bats, they know how many reps they need. You're starting to see Trey Turner get to the point where he's seeing the ball a little bit better and not quite so in between. When you're in between, you're lost.
Yeah. So he went down there. What it sounds like to me anyway is he went down there with, hey, I want to try to use off fields this year. Maybe that will help me out. The batting coach sees that he comes down with this newfound approach and was like, hey, man, I'm not recommending that. And now you're back to square one. Wait, I came in here, it's like you're in high school and you're sitting out all summer And then you're like, you really don't want to go back to school, but you're like, it'll be kind of cool. Like, maybe this is the year that, like, I'll find the love of my life, or I'll find a new best friend, or I'll have the best year I ever had in whatever sport I want to do. And then you start school, and you're like, this really sucks.
I think I like the fact, though, that Turner at least was trying to be open-minded to something
Well,
different,
I think
and then he kind of course-corrected.
Well, I think what is also is like he's suggesting that I keep struggling, and Long is saying, no, man, you're doing fine. Like, just keep the course. Like, you're not struggling as much as you think you are, although fans might be thinking otherwise.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation here. The fans' perception versus the person who's actually in the batter's box are two different animals.
Sure.
Zolecki also sat down and talked to Bryce Harper because he, for those who don't remember, we talked about the Ken Rosenthal report about Bryce Harper telling Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic that, hey, maybe if they would have to sign a right-handed first baseman, I'm willing to move to the outfield. So Todd Zolecki said he followed up with Harper to get some clarification about what Harper's position is about, hey, now that we're in the season, is that still an option?
I followed up with Bryce just the other day because I thought it was so interesting because Bryce basically said, I talked to the Phillies in the offseason. I said, hey, if it could help make the team better for a season, I would go back out to the outfield. I thought that was interesting. Pete Alonso was the big bat at first base. And I said, so you would really do this, huh? And he's like, yeah. And honestly, if they come up to me in July and they say, there's a first baseman out there, maybe it's Vlad Guerrero Jr. And he said, I would move out there. I would try to do what I can, move out to the outfield if they needed me to do that for a half season.
So the interesting part is, were they interested in Pete Alonso? That's the name that he brought up. And would that have...
And that's the name that Ken Rosenthal brought up when he talked to Bryce Harper.
Yeah,
well.
I don't know, did they make a serious run at Pete Alonso?
Or was maybe Harper hoping they were making a serious run at him, maybe?
That whole thing is confounding to me. Is like, okay, if you could have got a right-handed bat and you chose not to, like, that is perplexing because I can't imagine. Now, unless you got the okay from ownership to say, let's see what this looks like for the first half of the season, and if it's not working, then we can do something. But I'm not going to pay extra money for half the season because we're going to be fine up to the All-Star break. But if by the All-Star break we're kind of slumping along still, then I have no problem saying go out and get that right-handed bat, considering Bryce is willing to kind of, to move to the outfield.
How much do you think it's important that Harper has stayed consistent on that message? That he didn't, like he told Ken, he didn't tell Ken Rosenthal one thing and Zolecki another.
Yeah, but I don't think the report's going to get out there and then he's going to backtrack on that. And
no,
by the way, I don't think
he's
he's going to come out to the public and say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm a first baseman now. That's where I play. I think he's got to play nice in the sandbox.
Well, Ruben Amaro believes that Harper's willingness to move is an example of the mindset of the current Phillies roster.
It's really important for people to understand, even though they haven't talked about it a lot, they know that their job is to win a World Series. That's what they want to do. These guys all have the money for the most part. The Phillies have taken care of them. They've done a lot of things for their families. They've created an atmosphere that is a winning type atmosphere. It's now really up to the players to do their jobs. And I think they know that.
I think they know that as well. Right. And that's one of the things, I kind of suggested that if I'm Rob Thompson, my message is, guys, we all love each other. This group has been awesome. It's been an honor to be the manager of you guys. If we want to stay, we got to do it now. Like, this is it, guys. So let's just leave it all out there every night. Let's go do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have to play you at first base, that's what you have to do. If I have to move you to the 2-hole, that's what we have to do. Trust that I'm going to do everything I can to get you guys a World Series.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Rob Thompson because you know how there's a lot of fans out there, Mike, who like to text into the Sports Bash or reach out to you on social media like, Rob Thompson's got to do something. To which Ruben Amaro Jr., he thinks that way of thinking is very incorrect. And he just thinks, Ruben Amaro, that fans, some of them, are wrong in how they view this team.
Their sole goal right now is to win a World Series. For anybody who thinks that that's not what they're trying to do, or they're not getting pushed hard enough by Rob Thompson or whatever the case may be, that's a bunch of BS. The reality of it is these guys want to win, and they'll do anything to do so. And that's a perfect example of, for the same reason, guys like Schwarber and Turner will hit anywhere in the lineup. Same thing with Harper. You put me in the lineup. If the manager thinks that's the best way to go, let's go do it. And that's a testament to what these guys are about.
I don't know that anybody questions that, though.
I think there are some people who question this idea, like he just said, like, Rob Thompson's going to go out there and push these guys. He's going to go in there and give them the speech. This attitude that,
but I don't think anybody questions the Phillies want to win.
I don't know if they question their want to win, but I have seen texts and people on social media who have said to us, Mike, Rob Thompson's got to go in there and shake things up. He's got to get these guys motivated. And, it's like at some point, there's nothing Rob Thompson's going to do to get these guys to do the job.
I think more people blame Rob Thompson than think that Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber don't want to win. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody accuse them of not caring about winning or not wanting to win.
So you're saying that maybe Amaro Jr. is misunderstanding the fans' criticisms at times. That Amaro Jr. is translating it as the players. You people don't understand the players. They do care.
Yeah,
whereas the fans are saying we know the players care. We just want Thompson to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I think most people are like, I just don't know this team is good enough. It's not that they don't care. I'm just not sure that they're actually good enough to win. That's been one of the big things is, hey, they lack this, they need that. They're not wanting to win. I think everybody likes this team. It's not an unlikable team, this Phillies team. They've been a team that everybody has embraced and liked, and because they embrace and like them, they want them to win a World Series, and I just don't know that they're good enough. That's all. All right, Sports Bash this hour brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Call them 609-390-3907. Online, broadlees.net. Got another chance for your cue to call coming up on the Sports Bash. Stick around, plus football at 4, Knicks Nuggets. Ryan Rothstein's got Rye or Sigh tonight. We got a fun, busy show. It's a happy hour Friday right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. There's your cue to call right now. Caller 6 and 7, 609 573 3776, 609 573 3776. Caller 6 and 7. It's your chance to enter to win tickets to see the Phillies home opener at Citizens Bank Park, or you can win Metallica tickets. They're playing at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. You pick the tickets. You must be present to win at our Phillies opening day watch party at Maynard's in Margate. Caller 6 and 7. You can enter right now at 609 573 3776. It's all brought to you by Maynard's in Margate, 9306 Amherst Avenue, our Phillies opening day watch party. March 27th, we will see caller 6 and caller 7. Good luck. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. The Eagles just signed a tight end, Kyle Granson. We'll get to that in just a bit. Also, they signed a kick returner, a special teams ace earlier today. That happened back in the 2 o'clock hour of the show. And that was Avery Williams, who missed all of last year. I want to congratulate Paul in Delhaven and John in Summers Point. Paul and John, you have a chance to win Phillies home opener tickets or Metallica tickets for Lincoln Financial Field at our Phillies opening day watch party at Maynard's in Margate. We have another chance for you to qualify coming up this hour on the Sports Bash. All right, Football at 4 with Adam Caplan on this Friday edition of the show, and he joins us right now as the Eagles continuing to kind of put together a team here at a cheaper price. Adam, that's the key, right? They're trying to put together a team at a cheaper price as we take a look at the first week of free agency.
Yeah, Mike, I remember when I called Jeff Sunday night, because the night before free agency starts always on a Monday. Pretty much it's done. The doors open completely on Wednesday, but you could agree to deals on Monday. I let him know. Listen, here's kind of where I'm at. Here's what I've heard. That their budget for free agency is very low. First time I can remember hearing that, like the way it was explained to me, and that it just Howie Roseman would be bargain shopping. But this is Mike. This is like Kyle Granson is the guy that they just agreed to, according to his agency that represents him.
Yes,
Sports Trust. Kyle Granson is a guy that is typical of free agency. He just was an underachiever. He was drafted. He's basically an undersized tight end at 6'3 plus. Remember Trey Burton, Super Bowl winner with the Eagles tight end?
How can we forget Trey Burton? Philly.
Right.
He's a part of the play.
Well, no, yeah. I wonder if Kyle Granson could throw like Trey Burton. But anyway, Kyle Granson at SMU is an undersized tight end, 6'3", 240, 235. He was drafted to be a multi-purpose tight end, H-back, tight end, slot tight end, and it just never worked out, which is why the Colts are a team to watch for Dallas Goedert. Not saying they're going to trade for him, but that's a team that needs tight ends badly. They've never gotten it right there. But the bottom line is the Eagles are continuing their bargain shopping. We're going to give you some insight and some intel on all the players. But, yeah, granted, Avery Williams, you mentioned, about Avery Williams, Mike, is interesting. He was a change-up back for the Falcons pretty quick. Then 2 years ago, he suffered an ACL injury, and he now is just a kickoff returner and a coverage player. So that's another bargain shopping signing for Howie Roseman.
Here, let's take a little look. I mean, offensively, they have most of their team back. I mean, you've got everybody signed except for Becton. And other than that, they brought in a couple of interesting pieces, though, that might factor in. But for the most part, this offense has almost all 11 of its guys back.
Yeah, look, the only question is, Mike, now, with the Kenyon Green trade, who will compete, we expect, against Tyler Steen for the right guard job. By the way, he had a great press conference. He basically said what's happened. He's got to work on technique. And,
I thought the technique part was the best part about it, though, the fact that he acknowledged that. Yeah,
I thought he was great. And by the way, A.J. Dillon's press conference is great. The secret sauce of Howie Roseman, in terms of how he's turned his career around as a general manager, really starting in 2021, the character of the football team. You don't win a Super Bowl with just great players. You have to have a great locker room and obviously very good coaching. It's because the guys care and they buy in. And Kenyon Green was really good. I don't want to say contrite. He wasn't apologizing for anything, but he's explaining why he didn't get his job back and what he's gone through. So, yeah, they had Kenyon Green, of course, in the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. They had the two tight ends. Harrison Bryant, we detailed on Inside the Birds this week. I really like this signing. We actually, this morning on our show that dropped, now he's a number 2 tight end. He's a better football player than Grant Calcaterra. He'll be the number 2 tight end unless they draft someone who would be like if they drafted a tight end that would not be starting, that guy would probably compete against Bryant for that number 2 job. Bryant is a better blocker than Calcaterra. He's more physical. And he was a outstanding tight end out of Florida Atlantic. So that Grant Calcaterra's got to prove to me that he can be more than just a guy catch the football. So look, we know they're moving to move Goddard. Not a secret. They want to move his salary. We'll see what happens. But they're kind of looking at that position. By the way, anything they do in free agency will not stop them from drafting the tight end. That this doesn't have anything to do with it. Every single player, Mike, that they sign is for depth purposes as of now.
Yeah, and you mentioned Harrison Bryant, a tight end, and Kellen Granson, excuse me.
Kylan Granson.
Kylan Granson, excuse me.
Yes.
Both guys tight ends, so it's pretty clear that they're either acknowledging that they need depth there or bracing themselves for the potential, as you've discussed, that they might lose Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, in our reporting, Mike, it's not that they don't think Dallas Goedert is good. They know he is. He's going to make just over $14 million. Also, we reported that his option bonus is not due now. It's not. They've got plenty of time. They could take this a while if they need to trade him. But they're looking to move his contract, and that's just the way it is. Howie's trying to cut cash spending. He has to, and he's trying to do that. And other teams have told us this. It's very clear. It's not a secret around the National Football League. I like the A.J. Dillon signing, Mike. He'll be the number 2 back. Shipley will be the 3. Shipley, to me, Mike, has got to prove that he can block if he wants to have a chance to play on third down. That's the one thing about this with Kenny Gainwell signing with the Steelers. We don't know who their third down back is. We know that Barkley has gotten better as a pass protector, but he's not Gainwell's a pass protector and all that he does on third down. So they have to figure that out. That right now is up in the air.
Granson, by the way, last year with the Indianapolis Colts, 14 catches, 182 yards. What he does do well, yards per catch. He gets about 11 yards a catch in his career. So there you go. Kylan Granson just signed by the Eagles just a couple of moments ago. You mentioned A.J. Dillon, interesting signing there because he didn't play last year with the injury there, and he'll obviously be, you would imagine, behind Barkley. I guess him and Shipley can battle it out for that number 2 spot. But on the offensive side, it doesn't seem like a lot has changed. But on the defensive side of the ball here, you brought in Josh Uche, a guy who was a high draft choice, Adoree Jackson, a veteran player. How do those guys kind of factor in? Because there are a lot of changes on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and Mike, let me just give you an example of where Adoree Jackson is in his career, so people understand that he's a guy looking for a role and is not a lock to make the team. Though you would think he would because they have no depth. The Eagles right now at corner. Adoree Jackson last year, Mike, when he re-signed with the Giants, this is how his career fell off because he missed a lot of time with injury. Last year, he re-signed for 1 year and $1.75 million. That's backup money, and he signed right at the start of he signed on September 2nd, right at the start of the season, and he really was not a starter for them. He was a part-time player. So, Mike, he's just here. Based on our intel, we think every free agent they signed for less than $2 million a year. Think about it? Why would Jackson, who got $175 last year, get more than he got last year? That's unfathomable considering he wasn't really a full-time starter. So he's in the mix is a scouting term. He's looking for a role. Right now, the starter opposite Quinyon Mitchell is not known yet. We know they're going to try to address the position in the draft. We'll see. We outlined this on today's show. Howie Roseman's always been high on Adoree Jackson, liked him, tried to sign him at least once over his career. And Mike, he's really not a nickel player. He's an outside corner. When he was really good, Mike, now I know he had a ton of injuries in his career with the Titans. He still could really run. He was above average to good corner who was explosive, and twitchy is a scouting term, but he's not that player anymore. You don't really know what he is until you get him. And they have a hole, Mike, at left cornerback. It's wide open right now, and Jackson's in the mix right now for that.
Yeah,
job.
sure. I mean, you would imagine, and this is kind of the theme. Find people that can make you compete and not get handed a job. Right? You have to beat a veteran player out. Tyler Steen, you're going to have to win a job over a former first round, but we don't want to just hand it to you.
Yeah, and I like that. Look, Green confirmed that he had a top 30 visit, which is each team gets 30 pre-draft visits. It's a guy the Eagles really liked. And Greg Cosell told us that in his tape study for that draft, he was a legit first-round pick. There was no question he was. Now, he hasn't played like it at all, even when he was healthy. But you know what? When you've got the best in the business, Jeff Stoutland, you obviously Jeff's hit rate is phenomenal. So you know the Eagles are hoping that he'll not only push Steen and let the best player in training camp win. You know, with Dylan, look, the Eagles are expecting him to be the number 2. He passed his physical, but he didn't, as you said, Mike. He didn't play last season. He did play in one preseason game last year. We don't know how effective he can be because he's got to get his timing back. But they've clearly signed him to be a number 2. I could tell you as a fact. He just has to prove it. Defensively, you mentioned Josh Uche. Mike, look, the last 2 seasons have been a disappointment for him after that really good season 3 years ago when he had 11.5 sacks. It wasn't just those individual plays, which are sacks. Really relentless pass rusher at his core. He just does not look like the same player. Very ordinary or below average. He was in a scheme that did not fit him. He needs to be in the kind of odd man scheme that the Eagles use, an odd man front. He'll be a stand-up pass rusher. He'll compete for a sub-package role, which, Mike, is a good role for him. And, look, the Eagles need depth at edge, and this is what the Eagles are hoping for. He could give them something on third down or a passing situation.
Yep, and you know, we just talked about Adoree Jackson. Let me get quickly from you. Were you surprised to see Darius Slay after saying Detroit or Philadelphia, and he's in Pittsburgh?
No, because Detroit went a different direction, Mike, at corner. That's what happened. So that $10 million that he got from Pittsburgh because DJ Reed. No offense to Darius, he's a better football player, and DJ Reed that left them. Detroit is Terrion Arnold, who's a first-round pick last year, and I know they want to get Ennis Rakestraw, who was a second-rounder, was hurt last year, on the field. So Slay had no chance to go back to Detroit after that. But look, they gave him 1 year, $10 million fully guaranteed. Now he was going to make $16 million this season with Eagles. Eagles were obviously not going to pay that. None of it was guaranteed. So most likely this will be his last season as an NFL player. And he actually ended the season pretty well. That's why the Eagles left the door open. But I just didn't get the sense, based on what he got with Pittsburgh, $10 million would have been on the table with the Eagles.
All right, spending a couple minutes with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4. And don't forget to check out all the Inside the Birds platform, everything that they offer. They're doing unbelievable off-season stuff here, a lot of podcasts, a lot of updates, a lot of intel, a lot of insight. There's a lot of unsigned guys here. Covey, Campbell, Uzama, Mekhi Becton, obviously the biggest. Fred Johnson, Jack Driscoll, LaRaven Clark, 2 on defense. Graham, we think, is going to retire. Avonte Maddox. So anybody that comes back from that group.
I would be surprised if Becton's back. I just, based on the intel we've gotten for the last 4 days or 5 days, as it were, I'm not saying he won't, but I don't do percentages, but I think the odds are against it. Now, look, if
what's taking so long with him?
Here's what I was told. I think he missed 34 games for his first 3 seasons. One of the, he's got the one leg where he's a very big brace on it. With him, I know he stayed really healthy last season, which was a great story for Mekhi, and he's a Super Bowl winner. He could play guard. He could play right tackle or left tackle. That's not the issue. The issue is you're not willing to commit starter money to a guy who's got a major injury history. I know, and he showed he could play right tackle with the Jets, and that should help him get a job. But he's not. We never believed that he was going to get the money other people thought he was going to get. When teams put together an offer, it's based on the history of the player with everything that's happened to him. And you can't ignore what happened with Mekhi the first 3 years of his career. It's a fact. And unfortunately, that's hurt him in free agency. So now, if he's got hat in hand, which is a sort of a personnel term, if it comes, hey, listen, I'll come back for, what I got last year, $3 million plus upside to $5 million. I would think the Eagles will look at that. But remember now, Mike, Fred Johnson's still out there, who did a good job as their swing tackle. By the way, the Eagles still need it. They have a need. We'll talk more about this Tuesday, and we'll see what remaining needs they have. They still need a swing tackle. They don't have that guy right now.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, and, of course, you can get that on all podcasting platforms. And don't forget their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds and right here on Football at 4. Adam, we will talk to you next week, pal.
Sounds good, thanks.
All right, Adam is back on Tuesday here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube. Yes, you can watch the show live on the YouTube platform and on the X platform at Mike Gill Show. That's all you need to do. Follow on the X platform at Mike Gill Show. Or if you're on YouTube, everybody can be on YouTube. You don't even have to subscribe to watch on YouTube. Just bring up the YouTube app on your phone, tablet, smart TV. Type in at the search bar at the top, The Mike Gill Show, and you can watch the show in living color. Sports Bash coming up. We got so much more to go, including Knicks Nuggets. They're on the way. Before we get to the Nuggets today, I want to tell you about my friends over at Game Day Men's Health. You know, as we've been telling you, my elbow hurts. I can't even lift the coffee cup. I don't even know what's wrong with it. Tennis elbow, old man elbow. Father Time is starting to beat us all up. Well, you can get ahead of the game with my friends at Game Day Men's Health. Stop on in, free consultation, whether you're chasing peak performance, you simply want to feel your best. Hey, guys, I'm getting older. How can you help me? They have the answers to those questions. When you stop into their on-site lab, you get your testosterone levels checked out. 15 minutes in, easy. They ask you all the questions. You give them the answers. They can help you at least battle Father Time. Check them out. English Creek Avenue, EHT, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Tell them Mike Gill sent you for a special offer. That's my friends at Game Day Men's Health. They're located in Egg Harbor Township. Now, coming up, another edition of Knicks Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. We went to the MAC basketball last night over at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. I would say okay crowd, not great by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your keisters, but okay, it was all right. But I would hope for the Friday night, because I said earlier in the show today, the one problem, and this is not anybody's fault, this is television. The TV networks kind of pick when they want these games. An 8:30 start's rough on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. But hopefully for Friday night, you get over there for the 6 o'clock game, and then you want to kind of hang out. There's a 6 and an 8 o'clock game tonight. So if you get there for the 6, then you want to hang around and maybe check out the 8:30 game tonight. So 6 and 8:30 tonight over at Boardwalk Hall. Then tomorrow night, it's the championship game. The winner goes to the NCAA tournament, and that game is tomorrow night at 7:30. So if you can get out there, check out a game. If you've never been to it, if for years you've heard, there's always this basketball tournament. I don't know any of these teams. I don't know anything about it. You don't need to know anything about the teams. Just good Division I college basketball played in an awesome venue on a Friday night. You want to leave at halftime and say, I'm bored? You're in the city. Go find something to do. You won't be bored. It's a great spot. Go check it out. I know next year is the last year of the contract for Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. They will then figure out, do they want to come back here? Let's give them a reason to want to come back. We got to get local people in that building, all right? All these schools are bringing people down, so there's going to be, their following down here. And as the weekend gets here, you'll probably see a little bit bigger crowds. Hey, let's go down to Atlantic City, cheer on our team. I got to be honest with you. I don't even know who's playing tonight. I have no clue. Don't care. Just want to go watch some Division I basketball in my backyard. So stop on out there tonight. Boardwalk Hall, Atlantic City, MAC Basketball Championships. When we come back, the Nuggets are here. Nick Earnshaw is back with another edition of Nick's Nuggets on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 426 Sports Bash. Welcome back, everybody. Got another chance for you to qualify for Phillies home opener tickets. Your cue to call is coming up in about 35 minutes from now. Listen for that sounder to go off, and you could win home opener tickets plus a parking pass. Or we got Metallica tickets for Lincoln Financial Field. You want to go to Citizens Bank? You want to go to the Link? It's up to you, but you got to enter to win, and you must be present at our Phillies opening day watch party at Maynard's in Margate. We'll be hanging out there on Thursday, March 27th, when the Phillies take on the Washington Nationals. Nick Nuggets will be there, and he's with me now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as the free agent week number 1 is hitting the end of the week. We got some Eagles news happening. We got Phillies. What was this game today? The breakout stars or something?
Yeah, it was like for the younger players. And yeah. By the way, Schwarber leading off against the Yankees today as well, by the way, as the older players will play later on today. So, yeah, I love Schwarber in the leadoff spot. You know me, love Schwarber there, but, we'll see how many times he gets it during the regular season. By the way, I'd probably go slight
Phillies game over not in the lineup. Turner is not in the lineup tonight.
And he's playing first base, by the way. Schwarber playing a little first base, so that's an interesting little nugget as well. So I want to get started, Mike, with the Philadelphia Phillies. And I want to answer your poll question on Twitter and what you led the show with today. Is it rear view or are the best for the Phillies? Are their best days behind them, or is it in the future? Are we going to see the best of the Phillies? And I think it's going to be in the rear view, Mike. I hate to say it, but you got guys that are aging at this point in their careers, right? And I don't think they did enough during the offseason to bring in another bat to extend their window here. Listen, this could be the last year of it. I think maybe this year could be the best of the best. We'll see. But I don't know if they could be what they once were. They had that spark. They had that magic. Now guys are getting a little older. Contracts are expiring. Team's going to start looking a little different. It'll have some carryover from some of those players with like the Aiden Millers of the world coming up, the Andrew Painters. But that time is ticking, Mike, at this point. And, man, they've just gone backwards every single year. You hope this would be the year they could move it back up again.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is the last hurrah for this core right here. We were talking about this earlier. You have 7 guys who were in the lineup in the World Series in 2022.
Yep.
And how many more times can you roll this team back out? So if you're saying in this era of Phillies baseball with your core, Realmuto, Harper, Stott, Bohm, Schwarber, Marsh, Castellanos, Wheeler, Nola, Alvarado was on that team. Are the best days ahead, or was that World Series loss to the Astros, was that the high point of this core's era? And I have to agree. I think you probably I think you're looking in the rear view as the best time. The best time as a Phillies fan for this crew was in 2022.
Yeah, it was the first year of everything. First year getting to the postseason since 2011, getting to the World Series, getting in the wild card. I mean, that was the most magical run of this core's era. It was. And I don't know how. The only way you could top it is winning a World Series at this point. I just don't know. I don't know if they have enough. They've won. They can win 90-plus games. Great. They're getting into Sixers territory where it's like, all right, get to the postseason. Show me what you can do. You've gone backwards every single year, every step of the way, and these guys aren't getting any younger. They're starting to hit their early 30s, starting to get into your mid-30s with some of these guys. Realmuto, I mean, how much do you have left of him as a catcher? Listen, catchers don't last very long. He has had a long, successful career, maybe in consideration after maybe a couple more decent years in the Hall of Fame at some point. But, man, those contracts expiring, Schwarber, Castellanos, JT Realmuto, how many prime years do you have left of Harper? How many prime years do you have left of Trey Turner? Is he going to be able to bounce back? And I heard you guys talking earlier, is he going to live up to that contract? Probably not. So it might be in the rear view at this point. They have to add at some point, hopefully this season, if they want to make a run.
Well, we asked our listeners and viewers at Mike Gill Show on the X platform. Right now, 60% think that the best days of Phillies baseball is in the rear view. 40% still think the best days are ahead. So I guess there's some people out there that think they can win a World Series this year. And I don't think they can't win the World Series this year.
Right.
I just think that it is going to be – it would – put it this way. I think what made this era of Phillies baseball was, number one, the signing of Harper. That kind of kicked it all off in 2019. And then when they got to the World Series, it was such an unexpected thing. Like, no one thought that was a team that was going to be a World Series team. They just, they get to the World Series, and that kind of ignited this, passion for baseball back here. Because when you remember during the Caplan era, they were always right there, but never got over the hump. And then they got Harper, and people got excited, but that did not help the attendance or the excitement. People were still not like, man, I'm a huge Phillies fan. I love this team. It wasn't until they made the playoffs that year and then went to the World Series that really ignited the fan base, and then it just kind of took off like wildfire. So the way it was so unexpected was the jumping off point, and now you've gotten to a point where, man, maybe that was my best. Maybe that first kiss was my best kiss. You're looking back at it and hey, a lot of people look back and say, man, that was the best time of my life. It already happened. I don't know that you can have a better time than what you had in 2022 with this crew.
Yeah, I mean, and doesn't it feel like the tone's been a little different this year in spring training? It's just been much different. After that 22 year, yes, it was very disappointing they lost the World Series. Hugely disappointing, okay? But heading into that spring training, people were juiced. People were amped. They couldn't wait to get to the ballpark. And it was just let's go win a World Series. Kind of the same with last year, too. But I feel like it's dwindled a little bit, right?
Yeah,
the tone.
maybe, but how much of that?
But it also has to do with the Eagles winning. That's another.
How much of that has to do with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, that you had a little Super Bowl hangover and you weren't quite ready to, because the Eagles win the Super Bowl on a Sunday, the Phillies report to spring training on a Tuesday, and you're just not ready for it. I will say, though, if you're watching these games on TV, the ballpark's packed. I mean, the berm is packed. It's packed every day. So, because I've been to spring training, now literally the Phillies draw very well down there. They sell out almost every single day. But there have been years where it is a little lighter. It's not quite the craziness. It looks like it's the craziness. I know the craziness. I've been in the craziness. This looks like the craziness. When that berm is packed, where you get to the game and you're trying to find a place to put your sheet or your towel to sit down on the berm, and there's not even a spot for you, that's the craziness, man. You can't walk around the ballpark, you're shoulder to shoulder. It's not like that at other ballparks down in spring training. I've been to many spring training venues. It's not like that. So I think people are still excited. It's just less because of the Eagles. This team is the same. So it's like a quiet, I'm hoping this team has one more good year left in it as constructed, because this is probably it.
I think with the Eagles, I don't want to say with them winning, it kind of tempered expectations for the Phillies, but it softened maybe the criticism, I guess, around them heading into the season. In a sense, I feel like with them winning, just from the fan base, I feel like that's kind of the mode we're in. All right, they're probably going to be good. That's pretty much the same team as last year. We know their pitching is probably going to be good. We know they can get there, but it's kind of wait and see, right? I feel like that's where you're at with the Phillies. Can they stay healthy, get to the postseason? Will they win the division, get the wild card? But then after that, it's all right, it's time to put up or shut up at that point.
The unique thing about winning sometimes is that it dilutes passion.
Right.
You get to a pinnacle, and then you almost put your feet up for a little bit just to kind of let that the journey kind of run through your veins a little bit, and then it kind of distracts you from the other side. It's we just won this championship. I talked about this with Moshe early in the week. You win a Super Bowl. well, then you enter the next year almost realizing it's not realistic to win again. Like, I'm going to a season where I know that it's unrealistic for me to reach my goal because I just reached my goal last time. I can't reach my goal every single year. That's just not real. That's not real life. You can win back-to-backs, but there's only a handful of few teams in history that have won a back-to-back. So, yeah, you can enter the season hoping to win back-to-backs. That's not irrational. But it's unlikely. So you go into a season after you win a Super Bowl or a championship knowing that doing it again is unlikely.
Yeah, and doing it again and again and again is very difficult. And keeping a core together for a long time and being at the top is very difficult. So what the Phillies are doing, this doesn't happen, right? Like, this doesn't happen. They were bad for so long. After that 08, 09, that run with those teams, it was a long time before we got this again, right? So we enjoy the ride. That's what I would say. Enjoy the ride. But I mean, this is we're getting to a point now where I see the end closer than to when it started. The end's closer, I feel like.
Well, I would even say this: if they won the World Series this year, I would still think that they would have to start thinking about breaking this team up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with how old everyone's getting, you have younger players getting ready in the wings, the Crawfords of the world, the Aiden Millers. It's a thought process that, hey, maybe you got one more run with this core group. Pitching you can always have, but in the lineup, guys are getting older. They're getting into their 30s. We saw what happened the last time they tried signing guys well into their 30s, right? It didn't work out. Guys got hurt. They eventually had to trade off those core pieces for less value. So it's something you definitely have to consider at some point if you're the Phillies and Dave Dombrowski.
Yep, I think let's enjoy this ride because you're right. It's probably the last one for at least the Real Muto, Castellanos, Schwarber, Harper. Although, do you see them moving on from Schwarber? Do you see them moving on from Castellanos?
I could see them moving on from Castellanos. Schwarber, I could see coming back because he's a DH, essentially. I mean, they're going to throw him out there at first base, maybe left field a little bit. But, I mean, even Real Muto, I could see them moving on from after the year, right? Real Muto, Castellanos, guys like that.
Castellanos going to be a tough one to get out. He has another $20 million next year on his deal.
I know, but they're going to try and move on from him as quickly as possible, it feels like, because he's getting to that point where it's like, all right, he's going to turn into a Taiwan Walker maybe at some point. Hopefully it's a great year this year, but we'll find out. All right, let's move along. Nugget number 2. I want to talk about the Sixers, and there's another aspect of that Daryl Morey sit down at, I guess it was MIT with Pablo Torre, that's going a little viral. It has people abuzz, Mike. And I want to get your thoughts on this. They talked about AI and artificial intelligence. And Daryl Morey, in his circumstance, he was somebody who was very, very open about using artificial intelligence to help build their basketball team. And they use models to help build the team. I got to ask you, Mike. I know a lot of people hate this, but I'm going to actually defend Daryl Morey. There's a lot you could criticize the guy about. But this, in today's day and age, I do not hate him using artificial intelligence to help build a basketball team. I don't hate it. If anything that can help you get an edge, I'm all for it. Now, has it worked? Maybe. Not for this team. For other teams, possibly. For Daryl Morey, maybe not. But I don't have a problem with Sixers or any organization in sports using AI. Any company's using it at this point in any field. So why not utilize it to study the trends, etc. That's what it's going to give you, and use that data to help build a basketball team. Utilizing analytics just with another tool.
The only AI that should be helping them make basketball decisions is Allen Iverson.
There you go. Okay.
I mean, listen, if you want to see what I got to listen to this bite. I actually have the bite here. So this is, and I listen to Pablo Torre's podcast a lot. Pablo Torre Finds Out. I listen to the podcast a lot. I have not listened to Daryl Morey there. I generally don't listen to Pablo's, all of his podcasts. The one I listened to was The Sporting Class. So I have not heard this, but I did, as you were talking about this, I did find the audio. So let's play this, and then I'll react to it, because just off of what you're saying makes me want to just punch Daryl Morey in the face. Okay, let's take a listen. This is from Pablo Torre Finds Out, which is the podcast that is on the Dan Levitard. What is the name of that? Meadowlark Media. Here you go.
When you're making a decision, and insert your favorite Sixers decision here, are you asking an LLM for their input?
So we two answers there. We absolutely use models as a vote in any decision, and how much of that decision depends on, how much the assumptions behind those models don't change, and their past success rate. So if you have a highly successful model for picking draft picks, and we think that the game, Evan hasn't changed the rules yet, and so the game isn't changed.
Evan Wash, who's in charge
he's in charge. Thank you.
Of defeating you.
Yes. Then the models get a lot of weight in those decisions. It turns out LLMs do fairly well at prediction. They still are not beating human, like super forecasters they're called, like in Human Judgment Project talks about it. But they do add signal over just scouts and things like that. So we'll treat them almost like one scout. Now over time, if it's shown that they have a better track record than scouts, we might weight the LLMs or use multiple LLMs as one or two votes out of the process. So it turns out I'm building on a lot of things that Sentinel knows, and that multi-model approaches can put you more on the decision frontier, the optimal decision frontier. And when I say that carefully, you get very similar accuracy with lower risk by using multi-model approaches. And so that's why we do that.
I would just like NBA Central to aggregate what Daryl just said, which is that he asks ChatGPT for help on trades.
Please not aggregate.
I'm just trying to
at least have it
pay for my kids' tuition, Daryl.
All right, there you go. Yeah,
I've stumped you. I've stumped you.
I don't even know what to make of that. Like, what is happening here? Like, we got a trade. You put it into NBA Live and ask if like that's akin to Rob, the owner, Woody Johnson, putting the trade into John Madden football.
That's not the same.
I mean, listen, I understand using the tools, all the tools that are out there, but I have to get to a point where I don't need you if I have these tools. I hired you because you're supposed to be someone that has a great basketball mind, and this is where it gets so crazy for me. You were hired as a basketball general manager, and if we are getting into a world where all these general managers are now using artificial intelligence to help them at their job, then maybe you're not as good at your job as you're supposed to be.
I disagree. I look at it totally different. I look at him as using another tool, another way of evaluating a decision. That's how I look at it. The way he's using another tool. You can have plenty of people in there, basketball people, whatever. It's just another tool to utilize when making a trade, when making a free agency decision, when making a draft pick. Just it gives you everything you need to see.
I know what it gives you. I'm just saying,
from other people.
I would say that the league itself should be saying, we don't need computers helping these teams out. This is supposed to be who's the best team, who's the best run organization. Everybody has access to this computer. You're now bringing in artificial, there's the word, artificial help to help you. That is now, to me, messing with the spirit of what you're trying to build. Is I'm the general manager, and I'm going against you, the general manager.
But he's not the only one using it. He's not the only one.
That's my point. It should be just you're not using it at all. No one's allowed to use this.
No. That's now you're staying. You're going to be behind if you don't use it. I don't have a problem with him using it as a tool to help make decisions.
I got news for you. I got news for you. If they just started using it this year, it ain't working.
So that's why I prefaced it with that when I brought it up. I was like, well, whatever they're using, it might not be working for the Sixers. Maybe some other teams it's working for, but clearly
I'm
it's
not
not working for the
suggesting
Sixers.
that other teams aren't using it. I don't know that they are or not. I wouldn't be surprised. But my point is It is now ruining the spirit of sports are being ruined because they're being infiltrated by people. You get into sports because you have this thought that you have knowledge and that you can do stuff.
You don't have to use it whatever it tells you. You don't have to. It's just another tool to utilize in helping make a decision. I don't see an issue with that.
But Nick, that's the problem. You have now added another variable into the sphere of influence, where you, as soon as what is recommended by the AI is wrong or is bad, you can say, well, we listened to the AI, it didn't work, we won't listen to the AI next time. You're creating more of a leash for you to get away with making bad decisions because you're depending on a platform that is only as good as the program.
But if you're the owner,
information.
But if you're the owner, then you fire that person for using the AI for making a total decision. You have other people in the room to help make you that decision. It's just one small tool. You can ignore it like you can ignore Scout.
Nick,
you can do that.
This is a dumb tool. Because
I don't think it's a dumb tool at all.
You're adding another variable into use as an excuse when you don't make the right decision.
Yeah, what it tells me is you need a tool to now help you make decisions because you don't have enough confidence in it yourself.
No, but you're using other stuff anyway. You're still using data. It's helping you aggregate data, anything.
I know what its purpose is. I'm just saying you are now bringing in an artificial thing that has no feel for what it's even watching or seeing or doing. And you are saying, I am taking that into account when I make
That's why
decisions.
you have people in the room who do have feel for making decisions. That's why you get all of the information, not just one.
Nick, I got a suggestion. Why don't you hire people to do that gathering of information instead of depending on AI to do it?
You know, we live in this world now where we are so dependent on AI. And then when the corporate guy comes around, he never met you. He doesn't know anything about you. He doesn't know how important you are to your job. And his AI spreadsheet says, hey, this line item right here makes too much money. That guy's an idiot. He has no idea what these people mean to the process. And that's my point. The AI stuff that these teams are using have no idea what these people bring to the room that help you win championships or bring to the room that you cannot. Like my buddy in college used to joke all the time when John Madden football came out, speed, agility, power, all of the ratings. And he would say, they don't have one for hard on there. It was a way because he wasn't a guy that played football. So he was like, they don't have one for hard on there. But you know what? He's right. The artificial intelligence can't help you with sitting with a guy in the room and having a conversation with him. It's exactly what DeMarcus Lawrence was saying last night. Maybe if you stop tweeting all day long, that I would have signed back there because I would believe we can win a championship. But the AI would say that Micah Parsons is a championship player. But quite frankly, he is not.
See, I think we're talking in two different lanes here. I want to see every angle of everything. I want people in the room that would understand what is going on and have a feel for the game. I also want the artificial intelligence to maybe give me something that's a person may not. Why is that a bad thing to have it all in there and help you make a decision?
It is not a bad thing.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
It's not a bad thing. It's a crutch that is unnecessary, and it is ruining the spirit of sports. Sports is supposed to be that humans compete against each other, not against computers.
Well, Moneyball, I mean, they put together a team with a computer. So, essentially they did that. And now you're seeing analytics in the game. Whether you like analytics or not, they're just numbers. They're just
exactly.
numbers.
But I'm saying, I never said Moneyball was something that I'm a fan of. Like, I didn't say, wow, I love Moneyball. Like, how? No, I think the Moneyball was the beginning of sports being infiltrated by less decisions by people and more decisions by outside things that have kind of ruined the game. The spirit of the game has been destroyed by the fact that people who, by the way, the whole point of you getting into sports is to compete. Me against you, not me against you and the AI infiltrator.
See, I want to use everything. I want to have everything in my access, in my hands, that I can get on to have an advantage to build a better team. That's what I would want to do if I'm Daryl Morey. But if he's lazy, if you're lazy about it, you'll know if he's just using AI to put together a team and not using every tool he can.
I want to use everything too, but I want to use what I have in my knowledge and what I've obtained and all the people that I've been around. versus yours. And guess what? I trust that mine will be better than yours because I don't need to trust AI. If you do, I'm going to beat you.
See, I would take it all. I would rather have the computer on my side too. I'll use all of it because the computer can do something, maybe something a human can't, and see something that maybe someone in my office or in my realm on my team didn't see.
Again, the sports are supposed to be human versus human. It's human competition.
That's been out of it for a while now. I mean, that's been
I'm
years.
not disputing that. I'm saying I think we all like sports a lot better when that's what it was. Good Nuggets today.
All right, Mike. It was a thought-provoking Nuggets today. How
it really
about
was.
that?
I didn't know you were throwing me that curveball today.
Oh, I threw you that one today. 2-pack of Nuggets. I was going to get to the Marcus Lawrence thing, but we ran out of time, unfortunately.
I snuck it in there, though.
You did. You got it in there. I was going to be my third Nugget, but it's all right. We know no Cowboys a championship player. That's for sure.
All right, there's Nick's Nuggets today on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, you can watch the show live on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. There is your cue to call right there, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. Caller 6 and caller 7 right now. You are entered to win tickets to see the Phillies home opener or Metallica live at Lincoln Financial Field. You must be present to win at our Phillies opening day watch party with the Sports Bash live at Maynard's in Margate, 9306 Amherst Avenue in Margate. We were packed there last year on opening day. It was absolutely an awesome, fun time watching opening day with all the Phillies fans. Well, we're doing it again. And this year, we have tickets to the Phillies home opener, or Metallica is performing live at Lincoln Financial Field May 23rd and May 25th. You pick the tickets. We'll see you at the Phillies opening day watch party. All right, 5 o'clock, Sports Bash on a happy hour Friday. What's up, everybody? Mike Gill driving you home. We've got so much to do this hour. We'll have a little fun as well. Kind of a quiet day for the Birds. They did sign a tight end and a special teams player. Patrick Johnson, by the way, former Eagle linebacker, special teamer. He just came back as well. He was with the Giants last year. Another special teamer back. So Eagles making some more room, some moves around the edges. Phillies in action tonight, by the way. Had a lot of Phillies conversation earlier in the show. Just talked a little bit about the Sixers reliant on artificial intelligence in some of their decision-making. Thoughts on that? Let's check it out. Ryan Rothstein is back for another edition of Rye or Sigh on this drive home from work, Friday afternoon. A little fun on a Friday. Keep it light, keep it fun. What do we got today as we get ready for the weekend?
What up? What up? How we doing? Artificial intelligence. I don't know if anything's intelligent with the 76ers right now, but I digress.
Yeah, it was, I didn't even quite understand what Morey was saying. I mean, I basically was saying that they use this model and this and that. And listen, I get it. Like, use all the tools if they're there, but that's not the spirit of sports. Like, it's me against you. Your ideas against my ideas. If I'm the GM, if I'm a player, it's me against you. Not like, hey, can I, I just feel like the spirit of building teams and sports and competition has been thrown out the window because they're so reliant. And that's part of it is, I don't believe that I needed the computer to help me make decisions. So if you need the computer to make decisions, means you weren't good enough to make the decision on your own, then you shouldn't be a part of the game.
Yeah, I agree and disagree with it. Listen, artificial intelligence, there is a legitimate use for it, and you have to get with the times, right? You're almost an idiot if you don't utilize certain things like artificial intelligence. Now, it just depends how you're utilizing it and what you're utilizing it for, right? Like it all of that stuff matters. But I also agree with what you're saying to a degree as well. It's like if you're reliant or dependent on certain things, then that's a problem. And
Not
that's
even
where the
reliant
problem.
or dependent. I don't think they're reliant on it or
Me either.
dependent on it. I just
Yeah.
think it's like, hey, let's just see what the computer says. And it's like, listen, when you got into sports, it's for to compete. It's for to compete that I'm better than you.
Mhm.
Not that, hey, let me check what the computer thinks before I make this decision. No, it is all, a feel. It's intuition. I always talk about in sports all the time. You get a kid who's a really good player. He's got a ton of talent. And I'm like, man, this kid he just lacks the intuition, like that sense of, there's a ground ball,
Well, yeah.
there's a throw to first base, and the runner keeps moving, and the kid catches the ball at first, and he thinks the play's over. And there's the kid who keeps running because he knows that first baseman put his head down because he got the out, and he thinks the play's over. The kid on third has the intuition that kid over there thinks the play is over, and he comes around and scores because the kid makes a wild throw over the catcher's head because he didn't have the intuition to think that guy was going to hustle because the guy hustling knew that you didn't have the intuition to look up at third base to make the throw.
That's part of it, though. That's part of having talent is the intuition part, right? I mean, I think that's your point is you can have, quote, physical skill, but if you don't have the full package, then you ain't that good.
Exactly. And that's my point is like, and not that the computer that would help you with that, it's not going to help you find that guy either. But the whole point of it is like some guys have intuition, some guys don't. To have artificial aid to help you make these decisions takes away the competing part of it of me against you.
Yeah, I will add this though too before I have a lot I want to get to if we can. But artificial intelligence also is used in a million different ways. It makes your life easier. Like there's also just artificial intelligence apps that are just instead of plugging it into an Excel spreadsheet or instead of like you can still do all the work and it's just there to compile the information for you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
anything that's there to make your work life, your whatever life better. I'm talking about competing in sports.
I got you. Yeah. It's crazy. And anything the 76ers bring up right now, it just ain't going to come off right. So, I mean, they can't win right now if their lives depended on it. That's just the bottom line. But someone that can win and has been winning their whole career is Steph Curry. And he breaks the 3-point record. He's
He's already broken it, excuse me. But he crosses another milestone and another key threshold of getting to his 4,000th three-point shot made while being an active player. No player has ever gotten to 4K three-point field goals made, Mike Gill. I think there's a real shot he gets to 5,000 three-point shots made, which would be absolutely redonkulous. But I'll start with this. I have a couple of Steph Curry points and comments. First one, I look at him as pound for pound the greatest to ever play the game, and that's being a massive Allen Iverson fan as a kid. So that's tough for me to say, but I'll say it. Pound for pound the greatest. I have him top 5 of all time, and I have him as one of the most entertaining athletes of all time, right? Like how he has been able to entertain based off a three-point shot, right? Like some athletes are able to entertain and make the most mundane things the most entertaining things. Like I compare it to Vlad Guerrero throwing from the wall to home plate. Right, like Vlad Guerrero was someone that was can't miss TV with a throw from the outfield, where 90% of outfielders, it's just a boring throw from the outfield. Vlad Guerrero made that special. Steph Curry has made the three-point shot so special. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, he's an interesting guy because you're right. He is like, to me, he is what Caitlin Clark has become for the women's game, right? She does something that separates her from everybody else. Everybody's like, why her? Why is she the one? It's because she's doing things that is not routine. She's pulling up from 3 feet behind the line. It's what Steph Curry did. He just made the three-point shot something it never was. It was like, hey, this is a difference-making player. He changed the whole game. I mean, quite frankly, you could say he hurt the game. It's made it worse. You're watching a game now because everyone's trying to emulate him, and no one can be him. No one can shoot like this guy. No one has the range, the ability to do what he did, and then everybody tried to emulate him, and I think it's actually ended up hurting the game. But that's what happens when you have a guy like him. He changed the game. Now, I've always asked the question, like, was it like Steph Curry, I don't know where to put him. Like the LeBrons and the Jordans and the Kobes. Like if Steph Curry gets drafted to just like the Charlotte Hornets, is he Steph Curry? Do they become a championship team? Just putting him on a team that has been routinely poor. And let's say, look, we're bad. We end up getting this player.
Yeah.
And does he change the organization, or was it a combination of him and Clay and Draymond all at the same time?
I hear you. I just, at this point, when you look at what Steph's been able to do, and you look at your question that you posed, and you try and break it down, and you say, well, what does that mean? Or like, what are we trying to say, and how fair is that, right? Because, what if Tom Brady didn't go to the Patriots? What if Mahomes didn't end up with Andy Reid and sit for a couple years? Yeah, but guess what?
I got the answer because Brady went somewhere else and won a championship.
Yeah, when he was 41 time. But, I mean, Steph Curry has done it with multiple different teams too, right? Multiple different versions of the Warriors.
Yeah, but those versions were always, he had Kevin Durant on it. It's not like he had lesser teams. He got better teams.
Yeah, but I think his most recent title almost just solidifies, not almost, I mean, it solidifies Curry. He's done it without Durant multiple times, So
that's not what I'm saying. My question was, if you drafted Steph Curry and he wasn't in that situation with Clay and Draymond, that triple together. Now, everybody needs help. No question about it.
Right.
Michael Jordan needed help. But, like, if he would have gone to the Charlotte Hornets or the Atlanta Hawks, these teams that are just constantly nothings, was Steph Curry, like, LeBron went to a Cleveland team that had always been horrible, and immediately they were contending.
Yeah, but he had to leave. He wasn't able to deliver for them.
That's not my point.
I know, but that's a part of what you're saying, though. Just throwing it out there.
Not necessarily. They went from the worst team in the league to the NBA Finals multiple times because he was that good. He was so good that he was able to get that team.
Not good enough.
I'm not saying to win a title. My question is, could Curry go to a team and even get them to that level? If he was the guy, if Steph Curry went to those Cleveland teams, could he have elevated them not even to win a title, just to get to championships. I don't know that he was that type of player.
All right, so let's say he's not that type of player. I would combat with how many players are that type of player.
I'm not knocking him for that.
Well,
but
no,
I'm saying
I know. But let's have the
point
debate. It's a good debate. Let's have it. I mean, let's get in. Let's get into it because I'm sure there's a ton of listeners that want to get into it and want to hear it too because I think it's very intriguing what you're posing. And I'll say, I'm just to talk it out. I say, I don't know how many players would be able to do what LeBron did. I don't know if MJ would have been able to do what LeBron did that year that he took Zilgauskas and Larry Hughes to the NBA Finals and Eric Snow, right? So,
well, even the second incarnation of those Cleveland teams, he took to the finals and then ended up winning a championship with. Those teams were not great teams.
With Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love?
Yeah, they were they were okay. They weren't like, my God, teams.
They were good. They were good teams, though. I mean, they weren't like the Iverson Sixers or the Cavs version part one. I mean, they were championship teams, and LeBron being at the centerpiece helps. But listen, to answer your question, I think if Steph goes to another bad situation, maybe it's not the Cavs, to your point. If it's Atlanta, I'm not going to be the guy that says he's not Steph Curry. I have Steph as a top 5 guy of all time. How he impacts the floor, the amount of attention he demands, the sets you're able to run because you have him on the floor. He is so massively undervalued and underappreciated still to this day. And it's crazy to think of.
I can say this. I don't know that he's a top 5 player, but he's had an impact maybe to that level because of the three-point shot. And that shot he has made transform the whole game. The three-point shot has transformed the game, and it's what he and the Splash Brothers, I mean, he's a part of that. Clay is as well. It's what that era of Golden State basketball was able to do that has changed the NBA as we know it. So he has an impact amongst the greats of the game, which puts him – listen, he's a great player. I'm just saying, I don't know – he's always been a tough one for me to say, if he steps in and he's Jordan, does he win a championship with what's left over? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I just don't know what that means. He's still a top 5 guy for me. So if you don't have him top 5, where do you have him? I'm just curious.
Well, it's hard because, I'm not one of these guys that puts Wilt and the old school, because I never saw those guys play. So I just don't know what the impact is of those guys. How do you not put Wilt? I never saw Wilt play. I don't know. I'm not knocking Wilt. I've never seen him play before live in my life. I would go Jordan, LeBron, Kobe. They're always my first 3 generally all the time, every time. Those 3 to me are bang, 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 not even debatable. It's whatever you want to put him in. And I don't really care if you think LeBron's better or you think Jordan's better.
Agree.
Or if you think Kobe's better. Those 3 guys are probably the best 3 players that I ever watched in person with my own 2 eyes, and then bam, after that.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's there's an era of Durant that was so unbelievable. Watching Kevin Durant play in his prime Warriors years. Because there were some years there when before Durant got there that those Warriors teams were just kind of And then they got Durant, and you were like, well, that's not fair. This is a team that won all those championships, and then you give him Kevin Durant too?
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that has hurt Durant's legacy. I mean, listen, I still have Durant as a top 10 player of all time. And I've been very critical of Durant over his career for a variety of things, but I've grown to really love and appreciate Durant. And anyone as a ball player on any level has to love and respect Kevin Durant. The dude is just an absolute gamer. So he's top 10 for me. I don't have Durant top 5, but if you want to put him top 5, I'm not going to argue you tooth and nail about it.
No, I'm saying, and Durant for me, full disclosure, he was my favorite player in the league. Loved Kevin Durant. What he did when he chose Golden State, I lost total respect for him and just lost my passion to watch him play. And then everything he's done after Golden State, I think he's been a complete buffoon.
Right. I think, unfortunately, he's been self-sabotaging in a lot of ways, and indirectly, too, just with his decisions. And that Warriors decision clearly has impacted him. He's been trying to really resurrect himself, and he's failed. He hasn't been able to do that.
Miserably. I mean, to go from Golden State then to the Brooklyn thing, that thing was a total disaster. And now you're on a team that is not even a playoff team. I mean, it's almost like
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Bad,
And he's had talented rosters, although they've gone top heavy. And it's another example of you can't just throw super teams together and expect them to stick and expect them to, become champions. So just to add to this, part two to the Steph Curry, you look at this record, this 3-point record. Where does it rank among the all-time records in professional sports? Right? You have, just to throw a couple out there so we don't completely put you on the spot, right? Like you have Emmitt Smith rushing yards, over 18,000 in his career. Wayne Gretzky career assists, 1,900. Cy Young, 749 complete games. The active leaders, Verlander with 26. Right? Like Wilt Chamberlain, 50 points in a season, average. Where does the Steph Curry 3-point record rank amongst some really good ones in professional sports?
This is gonna sound odd, but it's impressive, but it doesn't because the fact that the shot just kind of became like the greats of the game didn't shoot the shot.
Yeah, and certainly not to the volume that they do now. But it makes it tough to assess it. I agree. I think you can look at it both ways. You can say
when you tell me, but just real quick, when you say Steph Curry, he's got 4,000, he's so far ahead of everybody else. The number 2 guy of all time, I don't think anybody views him as this great 3-point shooter.
Yeah. So
which is by the way James Harden. James Harden has the second most 3-point shots in the history of the game. And when you look at the leaderboard, there are 4 active players. And by the way, LeBron James is number 7 on the list, and Kyle Korver is number 8, and Paul George is number 9, and Vince Carter is number 10. Kyle Lowry is in the top 15. I think it kind of, that to me, now, the impressive part about it is the gap between him.
Exactly. And that's where you have to focus on, because look at a lot of those guys that you just rattled off on that list. It's longevity. LeBron's played 22 years. Vince Carter played 20 years, right? So, and that was in the era of the 3-point shot. So that's part one to it. And part two is to the point that you just made, which is the separation factor. That Steph Curry has a very good chance of ending up with over 5,000 3-point field goals made in his career. I don't think we're ever going to see that broken.
No, and I would say that he is he is the greatest shooter that we've ever seen. He set the standard, and no one's close to him. The problem has become that everybody's trying to emulate him, and they're not him. He is one of one. He's the best. And again, when I just read you off the list of 2 to 20, you're like, huh? Like Jason Kidd is top 20 all time. He was not a good shooter, right? I mean,
longevity again. Yeah.
Right. Jason Terry is on this list. Jamal Crawford is on this list. Buddy Hield and Eric Gordon, by the way, are 16 and 17 on this list. So I think the people that are on this list, by the way, Nick Batum is on this list. He is number 34.
Well,
so I think
34,
that is.
I mean, I don't know if he's on the list, but I hear you. He's top 50.
1,700 threes. Nick Batum's 1,700 threes. I mean, he's, between him and, say, Dirk Nowitzki, I mean, Dirk's a pretty damn good player, and Nick Batum's right there with him.
I know. That's what makes that list so convoluted because, Reggie Miller is a top 5 shooter of all time. Dirk, Larry Bird is a top 3 shooter of all time, and they're not, where are they on this list? To your point of the 3-point shot and its reliance.
Right. Like, I would like to have seen, had the game had a more reliance on the 3-point shot through, the 80s and the 90s. Like, when the 3-point shot came in the 70s, no one ever shot them. It was kind of like, no one shoots the 3 unless you absolutely have to. So, great shooters existed. They just never shot. And then the highest player on this list, Ray Allen, he's like a 90s guy. Reggie Miller, Ray Allen's number 3, by the way. Reggie Miller's number 6. They kind of set the standard, but everybody else on this list is almost current players.
I want to throw a couple of other records at you, and then before we move on. Cal Ripken, consecutive games played.
That'll never be broken.
Yeah. Is that the greatest? That has to be the greatest record of all time. Just to skip over a couple other records I was going to throw out there. Is the Cal Ripken?
The Cal Ripken one is one that I don't even think anybody even is targeting to do.
No, it's not even a realistic possibility, right?
Because most people want to take a day off. They don't even want to break that record.
No, exactly. I mean, guys don't play all season, let alone for the consecutively. So Cal Ripken, a couple others I just wanted to throw out. Boston Celtics, 8 straight NBA titles.
That one's not getting broken.
No. The Cy Young, 749 complete games.
Never happening.
And Jerry Rice, 22,895 receiving yards.
Probably not. I'll tell you what else I don't think will ever happen.
What?
I don't think I don't think we'll ever see another pitcher, right? You know, it used to be if you got to the 3,000 strikeout club. Now, Clayton Kershaw is close right now. He only needs I think 30 or 40. But once he gets that number, I don't know that we'll get another one. These pitchers just don't pitch enough innings.
Right. Yeah. I would say
we won't see like a 300 win pitcher or
right.
200. You know, like the wins. That's
anything with a pitcher. You can probably say a lot of those records will remain because of the lack of innings these guys throw now.
Absolutely, yes. That is. You know, used to see a guy hit 20 wins in a season. You barely see that anymore.
And I would say the same thing for the closer on the flip side. Like it's a dying breed. Like we're not going to see how many Trevor Hoffmans are we going to see again in our lifetime? How many? I'm blanking on some of the all-time great closers, but you get my point. That's Mariano Rivera, right? We're never going to see those guys again either. I don't think.
Yeah, to get to 200 career victories right now, the closest active player on that list. Let's see. The closest active player is Lance Lynn and Johnny Cueto at 144. Lance Lynn has 143. Charlie Morton, who's 40 years old, has 138 wins. Chris Sale has 138 wins. He is 35 years old. So I don't think you're going to see a 200-game winner probably ever again.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a young guy or maybe like in his first 5 years right now that maybe could be in the running, but I struggle to even find that to find that guy off the top of my head at least.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, both 104 and 103. They're in their 30s. I mean, so Nola would have to win another 100 games in the next 8 years. That's very unlikely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find these guys, like the one guy is Skeens in Pittsburgh. Okay, he's young, he's up early, but again, they just don't pitch the innings. I mean, he's on a bad team. So yeah, I don't see a 200-game winner in our lifetime ever again.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of unbreakable records in pro sports, really, is what we just outlined. A lot.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
All right, segment 1 in the book, Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. We got another segment to go on this happy hour Friday on the Sports Pass. But first, let me congratulate a couple winners that we had last hour. John in Brigantine's a qualifier. TJ in Tuckerton is a qualifier for Phillies home opener tickets. And if you listen for that sounder, it's going to go off one more time in about 35 minutes from now. Hey, I want to tell you about the Tropicana Showroom, Atlantic City. They got boxing coming March 22nd. Don't miss your chance to see some of the top fighters from our area. Undefeated Atlantic City fighter Justin Figueroa, and it's the professional debut of Pleasantville boxer Julio Sanchez III. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Boxing Insider Promotions, action-packed event Saturday, March 22nd, inside the Tropicana Showroom. Those guys always put – is that a new poster or is that last year's poster? I was going to say, it looks like March 22nd. They were here last year, but it's the same poster. It's a new poster. There was a poster that used to be there. Oh, you put it on top of the old poster. Okay. I see Bruce Selden Jr. is on the card. Justin Figueroa's on the card. Good card. They always do a great job, Larry and the team, with boxing insider promotions. More Sports Bash. Another segment of Rye or Sigh up next. All right, 5:32 on a Friday, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. We got another cue to call coming up for you in less than a half an hour, so listen for that sounder to go off. You can win tickets to the Phillies home opener. Our opening day watch party is at Maynard's in Margate. March 27th, we'll be live, and we hope to see you out there. It's open to the public. Stop on out. Have your Phillies red on. Last year we packed the place. It was an awesome spot to watch the the opener for the season in Washington. We're giving away tickets to the home opener, which includes a parking pass as well. All right, Ryan Rothstein's back, another segment of Rye or Sigh as we get ready on this Friday afternoon to get ready for the weekend.
Yeah, it's a Friday, so we enjoy having some fun on our Fridays. So what better way to have some fun than to just completely poop on the Dallas Cowboys? That's my definition of fun. I'm a little bit weird though. Demarcus Lawrence. I almost said DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Lawrence, ex-Cowboy, threw some serious shade on his former Dallas Cowboys organization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some listeners have heard this audio, and I'm sure there's plenty that have not, but we have to play it just so we can react. I have some points I want to get to. I'm sure you do as well, Mike Gill. So let's throw it to DeMarcus Lawrence, who's now a Seattle Seahawk, and what he had to say about his former team down in Dallas.
You know, Dallas is my home. I made my home there. You know, my family lives there. You know, I'm forever going to be there. But, you know, I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there. So, yeah. We here.
We're here. DeMarcus Lawrence, welcome to the Seahawks. Thanks for joining us.
So, a lot of layers there. I'm going to try and shorten and give you my cliff notes here before I throw it to you, MG. One, the Dallas Cowboys are the most overrated franchise in the history of professional sports. And I look at the Dallas Star. Whenever I see the guy with jean shorts on and the white and blue Jordans with the blue Dallas Cowboys hat down to his eyebrows, you know, I really do feel bad. And I get cringeworthy feelings up and down my spine when I see someone wearing a Cowboy star on any part of their body, because I think that has become the biggest joke in the history, honestly, the history of professional sports. That's part one. Part two, it really says a lot about Dallas in general. Like DeMarcus Lawrence, who's DeMarcus Lawrence? Like, who is he? This dude has 61 and a half career sacks. He had a 2-year stretch where he had 31 of his 61 over a 2-year span. So for the last 8 years, he's gotten 4 sacks a year, 5 sacks a year, right? Like, this just summarizes the dysfunction that actually exists down in Dallas, and I'm here for all of it.
Definitely here for it. Like to hear his honesty there. Obviously, and by the way, Lawrence is a guy who's had a lot of injury issues this year. He was hurt a couple of years, and that's been part of their issue. The part of it that's interesting that you bring up is the organization and their place in the sports world. They obviously built a brand based on a era long, long ago. Listen, you all see the thing on your Facebooks or your social media that says, like, hey, if you went in the time machine, you know, today you would go back to whatever, like if they did it today, they'd be going back to 1995. That's how long ago it's been since the Cowboys have had any sort of relevancy. I always ask the question, you know, okay, I get it. There's a lot of people. The Cowboys won the Super Bowl in 92 and 93. They were really good when I was growing up. They won in 77. They won in 71. If not for the runs in the 70s when they won that Super Bowl in 71, 77, and they were really good. Like they lost the Super Bowl a couple times, and then they won 3 Super Bowls in the 90s. That 90s thing kind of ignited them. But you're right. They have not been your generation. See, my generation, I'm 48 years old. So when I was in high school, that was happening. So all the people who are right now in their like 40s, that's when the Cowboys were basically the toast of the town. They were the best team in the league, and it wasn't quite close, by the way. For a 3-year, 4-year span there, they were the most dominating team in the league. So this generation, 40-sums, 50-sums, they are all fans based on that era.
Mm-hmm.
The question will be the fact that they haven't won one now for 30-plus years. Will this next era finally kind of dissolve this whole thing of the Cowboys?
It has to, because it's not that they haven't won a Super Bowl, which is really enough said. We can start and end the conversation with it's been 30 years, with I'm 34 years old and the team has stunk my entire existence. Okay, that's almost 40 freaking years. Okay, to your point, you were in 8th grade, 9th grade since when they were good.
No,
But it's not
95
high
when they
school.
won their last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I was a freshman in college. So my freshman year
Okay.
in college, they won the Super Bowl. And then 2 years of high school, 93 and 92, I was in high school.
All right, there you go. They haven't been relevant, right? And we've heard this stat now a million times. Every NFL team has made a championship game since the Cowboys have last made one. Right? Like that stat's insane. Like the Cowboys haven't done squat. They haven't done anything. They have 5 Super Bowls. The Eagles have 2. But the Eagles are a much better. I would put the Eagles head and shoulders above the Dallas Cowboys for a franchise. And it's almost impressive the Cowboys are still even relevant and being discussed. Like,
well, again, it's based
they're
on
nobodies.
It's based on you have a lot of people when you are trying to grab advertising dollars, 25 to 54-year-old men. Well, you got a lot of men right in the wheelhouse of like 35 to 55 that
Not
were
really.
in high school when this all happened. My whole generation. The Cowboys,
Yeah, but how old are you, Mike? How old are you? You said 48?
I'm 48.
Okay, so 95, you were a freshman in college. I'm trying to do math on the fly here. Our key demographic, you know better than me, is 18 to 45, 21 to 50, and I think I'm being a little bit extreme with the back end of that, right?
The 25 to 54 is the money demo.
Okay, 25 to 54, and I'm sure if we were able to break that down further, it would not go up to 54. Right, like the money-making spot right now is probably the younger male demographic. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. No one has ever seen the Cowboys relevant, right? So like 30 years of a team sucking, I don't know how much longer you can continue to make them America's team because they're not. They're the literal opposite.
I don't know because, so 25 to 54, that is the money demo for advertisers, okay? That is what business is. The second one is 18 to 49. So there are still people that are in that 49 bracket that are a little bit younger than me. Like I was a freshman in college. So that means anybody who was in high school behind me, if you are 47, 46, 45, 44, 43, you start to get into sports about 7th, 8th grade. So you still have a bunch of people who are infiltrating their way up that remember them being the team. And, these people are not letting that go. Like, that's their childhood, and that's the team. So it's going to take, I'm saying it's going to take, like, Josh
5
is saying
years?
10 years. I think it's like 15 years to get my generation to, like, listen, people in their 60s now, they still have a voice and think that they're, like, cool. I mean, like, so they're going to still be like, oh, I remember the Cowboys being good. Yeah, that was 50 years ago. Well, they were good when I was a kid. I think it's going to be like 15 years, and it's going to have to be 15 years of them not winning, which feels pretty obvious that that's not going to be the case because.
Right. I mean, anyone on social media, anyone relevant on social media, never really witnessed the Cowboys. So, that's a big deal.
Yeah, the very, very, like, bottom half of the demos, like kids who are 18 now,
21, 25, 28,
saying, Yeah, but your friends, come on, your friends still realize that they were something in the 90s, no?
No. My friends realized before us they were something. But Mike, Do you have the
random friend that is a Cowboys fan?
Yes.
Okay, why?
I couldn't tell you.
But what? But that's
their dad. Their dad. Typically, their dad.
Okay. Yes. So you have the random friend, even though your group They were never relevant. You still have
Sure.
the random friend because his dad.
Sure.
So what my point is, I'm 48. So a lot of people in my age bracket, that's when they were their biggest, was when we
Yeah.
were in high school. They all now have kids. Their kids are going to be fans like their dad was, and the cycle doesn't stop until that group of kids gets old, and then the team is never good again because there's people at 48. So if you're 48-year-old, most of your kids are now like 12, 13, 14 years old. You have
Yeah.
a whole group of kids now coming up through that their dads were fans.
Yes.
Because their dads were fans when they were actually the best they ever were, 92, 93, and 95.
But now, I mean, as we know, right? I don't know if it's 15 years. I think it could be sooner that the America's team label becomes extinct because you have Patriots, you have the Chiefs, you have the Eagles that are up and coming. As far as a national team, right? Like certainly the Patriots and the Chiefs are two organizations in football over the past 20 years that have been Cowboys-esque, right?
You know what, though? It has a lot to do with branding, and the branding has pulled the people in. When the Cowboys are on television, they draw. Whether they win, whether they're good, whether they're bad, they draw because they're drama. They have become a television show more than a good sports team. We all know, anybody with half a brain knows they're poorly run. They're not very,
They stink. In
But
every
they're-
aspect of the game, they stink.
But much like the way the country right now is going, it's about branding. You don't have to be right or wrong. Just brand yourself.
What is
Your brand
their brand?
matters.
What is their brand?
The Star. The Star is the brand.
But what is the Star?
Guess
Right,
what? You find people who will just believe anything, and you can win them over. And the
It's crazy.
Star is enough. I don't need to do more. I can say everything I want, but it's all around the Star.
I would be embarrassed how I started this conversation. I would be embarrassed to put that Star on. And taking my Eagles bias out of it. I don't know how anyone can put that on and look themselves in the mirror and say, "Yep, this is what I'm wearing in public today."
Listen, the Raiders are a similar situation. Like, the Raiders haven't been good since the 80s. And yet that Raiders logo for a lot of people is still a big deal.
Yeah. At least there's a little bit more respect around the Raiders logo. There's like some toughness and heart, I feel like, in there somewhere.
I feel like their fans just acknowledge that the team's a total dumpster and they embrace that part of it, where the Cowboys will still tell you that they're better than you, that they won. You don't see Raiders fans get in your grill that they won championships in the 70s. It's just like, we've sucked for so long, but I'm still a Raider fan. Like, there's a badge of honor of sticking through it with them. The Cowboys fans are more delusional.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's fair.
All right. Is that you going to the Mac at all?
Yeah, I'm going to head over there tonight. Are you going tonight?
I'm on my way.
Yeah, I'm going to head over in the next probably half hour.
All right. We'll see you over there.
All right, man. Cool.
There we go. Another edition, Rye or Sigh. Ryan Rothstein at Wise Rye on the X platform. Follow him over there. I got Happy Hour Friday picks for you. That's coming up on the other side. I got my Bet365 play of the day. That's still to come. Stick around. More Sports Bash coming up. Getting ready to get out of here. Happy Hour Friday with you, the Bet365 play of the day. Got a Happy Hour Friday for you there, Josh. Happy Hour Friday. I had a bunch of picks for you. Ready?
Happy Hour Friday picks or Bet365 picks?
Which one would you like first?
Well, I like to let people know they actually won money last night, so they have more money to spend on the Happy Hour Friday picks.
All right, how'd we do last night?
You won. You didn't just cover. It was plus 6.5 of the Lakers, Mike. They won outright. Luka time showed up in L.A. Who needs LeBron on the Lakers?
All right, so I was 1-0 last night
You
with the
were
pick.
1-0.
And
Yeah.
that makes me
128, 85, and 1.
128, 85, and 1.
So that
I'm
means
doing
if
it for the people.
If people would take your picks, they'd have plenty of money to go buy Happy Hour Friday brews.
Yeah, you sure could. All right, I like Dallas and the under tonight. The Dallas Rockets under 219 tonight. I'm going that one there. And you mentioned the Lakers. I'm taking Denver tonight, minus 15.5 against the Lakers on the back-to-back, having to go to the altitude tonight. Give me Denver, minus 15.5.
Do you know that all-time NBA teams on a back-to-back on the road only cover the spread 20% of the time?
Well, there's a method to my madness in picking some of these random games that people are like, why that game? It's the information. It's the information, Josh. All right, here is a couple Happy Hour Friday picks for you. Don't forget, your cue to call is coming in just a couple of moments from now. Stick around. All right, I got a bunch for you here, okay? Happy Hour Friday, springtime, feeling better. Feeling like we're out of the rut. You know, we had a little slow Happy Hour Friday in the winter. We don't go out as much. We don't do as much. But here we go. Protect Your Neck, Kings Road Brewery. Very good. I like that one. Juiced Box, Brotherton Brewery. They're going out of business, though, in about 15 days. So if you want to check it out, it was a solid IPA. Brotherton Brewery. They also have a Brotherton IPA that was equally as good. I like the Juice Box a little better. Some people with us like the Brotherton IPA. Really cool spot. Hadn't been there before. Check it out. Protect Your Neck, Kings Road Brewery, Juice Box, Brotherton. They are my picks this week for the Happy Hour Friday.
I've had that juice box before. It's delicious.
Yeah, you a fan of that?
I am a fan of that.
It was good. I liked it. It's like
I like that it pops in your mouth a bit.
Whoa, okay there. I'll keep that to myself. All right.
You know what I meant.
Get ready to get out of here on this Friday night. You're heading over to the games tonight?
Yeah, so we got game night coming up next, and as soon as I wrap that, we're going to roll over to Boardwalk Hall with the rest of you.
Good stuff. All right, so Earnshaw said he's heading over. Rothstein said he's heading over. I'll see you guys over there. Anybody out there going, we'll see you over there as well. There's games at 6 and 8:30 tonight, and then tomorrow is the championship game of the men's at 7:30. The women's championship tomorrow at 1:30. So if you're heading over to Boardwalk Hall, have a good time. Get on out there and support something in the city, and then don't complain that the city doesn't give you anything. They're giving you a great week of basketball here at Boardwalk Hall for the MAC Basketball Championships. We'll see everybody over there. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll be back on Monday with more Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.